Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Tuesday matinee edition of the New Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here. Russell is on his way as a coffee mishap that he is dealing with at the moment. But it does work out a little bit because I do have something that I want to read to you guys at the top of the show here. We mentioned on Sunday night that our friend, our audience member, very loyal audience member, George, who you know in the Rumble chat, he makes it rain, gifts a lot of those Rumble rants or Rumble memberships, I should say, quite often. So we love George. George lives in Haifa, actually. So one of the very few based Israelis out there and a fan of the program. And we mentioned on Sunday how we hope George is staying safe, and thankfully he is. He just gave us a $20 Rumble rant to start the show here, and a note for accuracy. He says, "Hey, Keaton, I realize I have one small edit for accuracy on the email. To be fair, it's almost completely ineffectual. Not completely." I got that note, George. So George actually emailed us after we shouted him out on the show. You just got to unmute your microphone. There you go. All right, you made it. So I'm just reading an email that we got from George from Haifa, who says, "I really appreciate your concern, Keaton and Russell. It's noisy and stressful at times, but the good news is they don't seem to be aiming towards me. Most of the attacks are happening at night, and each time the attacks appear to be more severe. As those like Ritter report, the defense systems are," and now he says, "almost completely ineffectual. And the latest missile I saw from Iran was easily 5 times faster than the defensive ones." And then he said something interesting. He says, "But they are clearly not targeting civilians. The economy was already ailing. Now it's almost completely shut down, like a COVID shutdown 2.0, essential services only. Interesting times indeed. Thanks so much, as always, for your great work. Peace, George." So thanks for the update,
Thank you, George.
Glad you're safe, George. And it's funny, we talked to the heroic Dr. Feroz Sidwa on the Jimmy Dore show yesterday, and he used to volunteer in Haifa, or worked for Johns Hopkins in Haifa, which, as I understand,
No, he wasn't working for Johns. That was right after he graduated from Hopkins.
Oh, from Hopkins.
He was working with like an Arab Jewish collective, like a co-op
in Haifa. So he was explaining to us that Haifa is kind of a mixed city, so it's one of the saner places in Israel, which explains why you're there, George.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense. So we are glad.
But he said the Israelis that he knew there were telling him,
right,
you have no idea. You're dealing with the 1% of people who are not crazy here.
Right. Yep. That was his exact quote. Yes, exactly. So it makes sense that our Israeli dissident would be from the sanest place in the land there. But thank you for the update, George, and please do stay safe. All right, folks. So now we have some quite terrifying updates to start the show with. By the way, great crowd in here to start things off. 1,300 in the YouTube chat already. 573 over on Rumble. Smash that like button. Let's get an even bigger crowd in here. Yes, folks, this is a popcorn-heavy show today. But we do have to start out with just some news. We figure we should do some news that's breaking. So this is a hell of a way to wake up in the morning to a text message from Israeli Ambassador Mike Huckabee, or American Ambassador to Israel, whatever. This is tweeted out by the journalist Asa Winstanley. Very worrying Trump post to Truth Social. Screenshot of a text message from insane Christian Zionist and U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee, in which he hints strongly to Trump that he should nuke Iran. So the White House was very proud to release this text message. They made a nice graphic and they tweeted it out. So here is Mike Huckabee's text message to Donald Trump, which I guess was received overnight and tweeted out early this morning. God spared you in Butler, Pennsylvania to be the most consequential president in a century. Here's a tell, maybe ever. The decisions on your shoulders I would not want to be made by anyone else. You have many voices speaking to you, sir, but there is only one voice that matters. His voice, H-I-S. You know what Huckabee's talking about when he says his in big letters. That's the man upstairs.
Epstein?
Yeah, right, exactly, Epstein. Yeah. I am your appointed servant in this land and am available for you. Wow. But I do not try to get in your presence often because I trust your instincts. No president in my lifetime has been in a position like yours. Not since Truman in 1945. Yeah, that's where people are interpreting as a suggestion to, do what Truman did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't reach out to persuade you, only to encourage you. I believe you will hear from heaven, and that voice is far more important than mine or anyone else's.
Cat was named Vagina.
Yeah,
a very godly man.
That's right. You sent me to Israel to be your eyes, ears, and voice, and to make sure our flag flies above our embassy. My job is to be the last one to leave. I will not abandon this post. Our flag will not come down. You did not seek this moment. This moment sought you. It is my honor to serve you, Mike Huckabee. So that was a text message sent from Huckabee to Trump, which Trump posted these screenshots of that came out.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
Yeah. Yeah, that is quite the scary way to start the day. Trump also tweeted out later this morning, we, which everybody was making something. What do you mean we? Do you mean the United States? Do you mean Israel? Are they one and the same? It's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. But we, whatever he means by that, now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment, and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff, quote-unquote. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. Well, that's wonderful. Gets even more unhinged.
Except for our planes.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, except for
and
the
our
planes.
Cars. And our roads.
And our roads, yeah.
Our bridges. Other than that, we make great fluffernutter.
Yeah, great fluffernutter here in the good old USA. So it got even crazier about 24 minutes later. He says, we know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding, meaning the supreme leader of Iran. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out, parentheses, kill, exclamation point.
Thanks for the clarification there, boss.
Yes, we understand what you mean. Yes, at least not for now. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter, followed 3 minutes later simply by unconditional surrender, exclamation point. Yeah, this is how you want to be communicating with the public at such a fragile and fraught time.
Yeah,
just sporadic, great. Unhinged Truth Social posts. No make an address to the country, no make a speech, no hold a press conference where people can ask you questions. No, that's what we really want to see here as violence now between Israel and Iran enters day 5? Yeah, quite the news to wake up to this morning, and that's basically where we stand. Trump calls for unconditional surrender, and by that we mean that literally. That's the tweet, folks. That is the statement. You're not missing anything. You're not missing anything. You know us as much as we do, as much as anybody. Unconditional surrender.
Yeah, no, this is going really well. This is going really well. I've never felt more secure in this country, and we've never had a president in my lifetime that made me feel more like, things are on the right track now, man.
Yeah,
Like
cooler heads are going to
shit's
prevail.
getting done.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So we will see where this takes us. Obviously, things are very fluid there, but
yeah, no. When you sent that to me,
the Huckabee thing?
The Huckabee thing. It's just okay. So this is more and more Escape from L.A. The premise is the America has just kind of collapsed into a Christian fascist theocracy.
Right.
It's kind of implied in Escape from New York, but they really developed that in Escape from LA. Yeah, that's basically what we got. You have like completely deranged Christian fundamentalists running the country. And you got Trump, who I mean, I don't think he has any particular beliefs other than a belief in his own aggrandizement. But the fact that he is so regarded, we shall say, that he would share that. Like, that's good.
Yeah, like, it's good.
That's
yeah,
good.
This will put your mind at ease that we have this apocalyptic religious fanatic over there in Israel saying, this reminds me of Harry Truman in 1945.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to communicate to you that I take people who text me things like this seriously enough that I want to share it with the public.
Yeah. And that I won't leave. I'll be the last person out. So what does that mean? If Trump starts a nuclear war, don't worry. I'll go down with the ship if it comes to it. I mean, just a maniac. Like, these are the people you want running foreign policy. This is how you conduct foreign policy. Have this religious fanatic say, yeah, no, I think this calls for, Harry Truman, 1945, you're kind of in his shoes here, and don't worry, I won't leave my post. Our flag will fly high. I mean, that's crazy. That's just crazy language. That's crazy talk to be using at really any point, but especially now. When you want to try and project that, cooler heads will prevail. Now, I think the idea that they're going to return to the negotiating table is kind of a joke at this point, but there's a long ways between that and this, and we are on this side of things, so to speak, much more closer to the wrong side than the right one. This is going to be a tough situation to contain at this point for anybody, much less these fucking absolute clowns. I mean, just clowns.
Yeah, I'm like, should I get out of the city?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's like the worst place to be if the nukes start flying.
Yeah, no, I remember I was 14. What was I? Yeah, I was 14 when 9/11 happened, and my parents were working a jewelry show in October, a month after the attack on the Upper West Side, and that's when we started bombing Afghanistan. And a few of the vendors just packed up and left because we started bombing Afghanistan, and they were afraid something was going to happen. These kinds of times now, man, and you're dealing with an administration that, for everything we've spoken about over the past 20 years and for everything we thought that this MAGA movement represented, they're just as crazy as the George W. Bush people, if not more.
Worse. They're crazier. Crazier.
Yeah.
Crazier.
I mean, Pete Hegseth is going on TV talking about what he knows about Iran's nuclear program. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, no,
you may as well have the pickle salesman at the Renaissance Fair tell you, what he thinks is going on. I mean, you got literally just a raving low-life drunk at the Defense Department. You have a complete non-entity at DNI, as we're going to get into next. Yeah, no, it's just an absolute clown show.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the guy who would sell the smoked turkey wings at the Ren
Fair. The turkey legs. Yeah.
Turkey legs. Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, we were talking about this before we came on the air, and it's with no joy that I say this. So PodSave was doing a tour last summer, and I said, okay, man, I got to go interview people who are online to see PodSave live. I got to see what these people have to say for themselves. And we had so much fun with those people. We actually have a sound drop from it on our soundboard. But I gotta say, man, it's embarrassing to admit this. They had it a lot more right than we did, man.
Yeah, that's how crazy these people are. Yeah,
I mean, they still don't get why we wound up with Trump.
Right.
They have an enormous blind spot about why no one wanted to vote for Kamala Harris, and they still, were claiming that Biden was fine. So they weren't right about everything. But what they had to say about what Trump would do if he got elected, go back now and watch it. They had that nailed a lot better than we did.
Indeed. Trump shitty wig Velcro. Thanks for the €5. Says not good. Definitely not good today. Thank you. Russell's Peasant Mind. Thanks for the $5. Says I'm thinking of changing my screen name to Keaton's Justified Anti-American Sentiment. There you go. Thank you. Some water. Made me laugh. You almost got a spit take out of me if the water were a little higher up.
Keaton's Black Pill Emporium.
Yes, Keaton's vindicated black pill. Killer Hinton says, speaking of Brian Wilson, when Dennis wasn't hanging with Charlie Manson or not playing drums on the Beach Boys records, he was starring in Two Lane Blacktop with Warren Oates, one of my faves. Thank you, Killer Hinton. Appreciate that. Abiding says, Iran, Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan couldn't make us leave Tehran and orange shit stain, tweeting, sure as fuck won't do it. Thank you, Abiding. Appreciate that. Very much. All right. Hey, folks, did not take us long today to get to 2,300 strong in the YouTube chat. Smash that like button, please, and thank you. Let's get to 666 by the end of this next segment. All right, folks, get the popcorn out. The MAGA meltdown is here, as predicted. So we have some developments on the Tulsi Gabbard front here. So DD Geopolitics, great channel, great Twitter handle. Check them out, of course. In March, Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, testified that Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon. Today, Trump replied, I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having one. So yes, just to refresh your memory, I know we covered this in the last show, but this is brief. So here's Tulsi Gabbard just about 90 days ago.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
All right, so no plans to develop a nuclear weapon as of March. And here's once again Donald Trump responding to some pushback he's getting given that recent evaluation by his own DNI.
Don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon. But how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having.
I don't care what she said.
The community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having.
Nothing is good. Man, this guy must. I gotta say, there's got to be great team building exercises within the Trump organization. That's how you do team building there. That's how a CEO or an executive or a manager really inspires confidence in his team. Is they make an assessment and you just say, yeah, I don't care what she said. They have video, folks. They have video, and so they're close to getting a nuclear weapon. That's it. Does not matter what she said.
I told Bobby, give that bitch a Dalmatian and shut her the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's funny because, a lot of people were really fighting hard to make sure that she got that appointment. She thought it was really, really important that she and not somebody else, not anybody else get that spot. And we sat on the sidelines thinking, why would you go this hard for Tulsi Gabbard? What difference does it make to us whether she's the DNI or not? Well, you have to understand, she's going to keep us out of situations like this.
Oh, yeah.
Well, even when she does, even when she makes that assessment, guess what? Israel wants a war. The line is, who cares what she said? Who cares what Tulsi Gabbard said? So CNN had a write-up here on this rift between Israeli intelligence and American intelligence, so to speak. Israel says Iran was racing toward a nuclear weapon. U.S. intel says it was years away. When Israel launched its series of strikes against Iran last week, it also issued a number of dire warnings about the country's nuclear program, suggesting Iran was fast approaching a point of no return in its quest to obtain nuclear weapons, and that the strikes were necessary to preempt that outcome. But U.S. intelligence assessments had reached a different conclusion. Not only was Iran not actively pursuing a nuclear weapon, it was also up to 3 years away from being able to produce and deliver one to a target of its choosing, according to 4 people familiar with the assessment. So these people said not only are they not pursuing it, would they pursue it, it would be years away from actionable. Another senior U.S. official told CNN that Iran is about as close as you can get before building a nuclear weapon. If Iran wanted one, they have all the things they need. Now, after days of Israeli airstrikes, U.S. intelligence officials believe that so far Israel may have set back Iran's nuclear program by only a matter of months, according to one of those people, a U.S. official. Even as Israel has done significant damage to Iran's facility at Natanz, which houses centrifuges necessary to enrich uranium, a second heavily fortified enrichment site at Fordo has remained effectively untouched. U.S. military and intelligence officials have long said that the U.S. and Israel often differ on how to interpret information on Iran's nuclear program, although they closely share it. Yes, I wonder why that is. Trump's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, testified in March that the U.S. intelligence community continues to assess Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized a nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. Once again, just to refresh,
the IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003.
Okay. He has not authorized the continuation of that program suspended in 2003. And then, of course, Trump responds, as we've seen a couple times already in this segment, I don't care what she said. I said they are developing a nuclear weapon. So I'm sure Tulsi Gabbard, since she was vouched for by so many wonderful people, is going to put her foot down here and say, no, Mr. President, I stand by my assessments. And if you don't care what I have to say about these things, then there's really no point in me doing this job, which means I am going to resign in protest, since you are now trying to, at the very least, manipulate my work into justifying a war with Iran. I'm sure Tulsi Gabbard, moral person that she is, said exactly that, right? Let's see. Gabbard insisted today, that there was no daylight between Trump's assessment and her own prior characterization that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon. President Trump was saying the same thing that I said in my annual threat assessment back in March, Gabbard told reporters as she arrived on Capitol Hill Tuesday for an appearance before the Senate Appropriations Committee. Quite a shocking proclamation. So shocking, it required the CNN breaking news music in Chiron.
Breaking news.
And we begin with breaking news. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is now speaking out, saying she and President Trump are on the same page on whether Iran's nuclear capability, where it's concerned right now. This comes after these comments from the president earlier this morning. Listen to this.
How close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having one.
Okay. Well, you be the judge. So you answered Misty's question there. Misty had a good question. Hey, Tulsi, you've just been thrown under the bus. Are you going to do the right thing and stand against this insanity, or will you do what you've been doing and roll over to maintain proximity to power and your position? Well, you got your answer. Got your answer, didn't you? So, yep, Khaleesi tweets out, just in, Tulsi Gabbard confirms she and President Trump are on the same page when it comes to Iran's nuclear timeline. President Trump was saying the same thing that I said in my annual threat assessment back in March. Unfortunately, too many people in the media don't care to actually read what I said. We just heard what you said.
Is she referring
to the second half of that statement where she says we'll continue to monitor things? Let's see.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003.
Okay, so that's the first part of it. Now let's hear. Maybe she's referring to this part.
The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
Maybe that's what she was referring to. So the part where she said, by the way, we reserve the right to make up any bullshit we want should we want to start a war with Iran. So I'm going to say this next part. We'll keep monitoring the situation so that if between now and whenever the war breaks out, Donald Trump says they are developing a nuclear weapon, I can go back and say, well, we said we were monitoring it. Hey, what could have happened to provoke Iran into accelerating a nuclear program between when I said this and when a war breaks out? Well, that seems to be the purpose of that statement, if that is what she was referring to. We don't know what she was referring to, but I have another statement of Tulsi Gabbard that I think you'll be interested to hear. Mehdi Hassan found this, good find, and said retweeted without comment. Here is a campaign ad.
That's a comment.
Oh, you retweeted without comment?
That's a comment.
Yeah, well, that is a comment. Yes, in its own way. But this is a campaign ad from one Tulsi Gabbard during her 2020 presidential campaign about war with Iran under Donald Trump.
Says that he doesn't want war with Iran. President Trump says that he doesn't want war with Iran, but that's exactly what he wants, because that's exactly what Saudi Arabia, Netanyahu, Al-Qaeda, Bolton, Haley, and other neocons and neolibs want. That's what he puts first, not America.
Wow. Wow. You go from that to saying they don't want a nuclear weapon to saying just a few months after that, we're on the same page, huh? So Tom Brannigan, why wasn't Tulsi included with the rest of Trump's foreign policy staff over the weekend at Camp David? I can take a guess. Yeah, it must have been because she would have set them straight if she were included.
She had back-to-back OnlyFans appointments.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I'm sure if she were there, she would have set them straight and she would have gotten things under control.
Yeah. That's
so
what
Scott
she does.
Ritter... Scott Ritter says Donald Trump just said he doesn't care what Tulsi Gabbard said regarding Iran's nuclear capabilities and intent when she recently briefed Congress. Donald Trump is 100% controlled by the Zionists.
I thought he was a
Tulsi
revolutionary.
Gabbard, I thought he was a revolutionary.
He's not a revolutionary anymore?
I guess not.
He's a revolutionary.
Tulsi Gabbard needs to resign and speak out against this war. Yes, correct about that. She did her duty and told the truth. Now she needs to complete her responsibility to the American people by speaking out against the war with Iran and the role being played by Israel in selling this war to the president. Well, as we know, that did not happen. That did not happen. Once again, Tulsi caves immediately, within hours of Donald Trump just throwing her under the bus, trashing her, dismissing her findings. She said, yeah, no, actually, he is validating what I said, not refuting it, and you just weren't paying very close focus to what I was actually saying, even though we've all seen the tape pretty plain as day on video. So I made a last-minute meme here. Told you Tulsi had no principles. Yes, that's doing quite well. Yes, this is pretty obvious. I mean, this is so she is such an obvious low-life, amoral, lying sack of garbage. The fact that she would even want the job under Donald Trump is proof of that, given the things she was saying about him vis-a-vis Iran.
Says that he doesn't want war with Iran, but that's exactly what he wants.
This very issue. That's exactly what he wants. Okay, so the fact that you're even really interested in the job shows that you are compromised. And everything else kind of flows logically from there.
Yeah, we did a whole half-hour breakdown on what a dirty, lying piece of shit Tulsi Gabbard is. And I got to tell you, some things that we report on takes a lot of work. That didn't take a lot of work. It's really not hard to find Tulsi saying one thing here, one thing there. And what's been really amazing is a lot of the people who have been backing Tulsi are the people who are most suspicious of deep state agents. And she was literally the commander of a PSYOPs battalion in Southeast Asia.
Yep.
She is literally a deep state psyop spook that you can find saying one thing, one press conference, something completely different the next press conference, and that didn't strike anybody as suspicious. That seemed like a trustworthy person to you, somebody who's been literally on every side of every issue. And even now, we did the MAGA versus MAGA thing, and we opened it up with Tulsi. Even now, you have these little fuck boys coming up. Why are you saying things about Tulsi? It's better to have her on the inside. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I do not want to hear that going forward from this. What, you really think she's there fighting from the inside to do? What do you think she's accomplishing there? She hasn't got a principle in her body. I think at this point, honestly, it's so blatant, it's beyond careerism. I think she's an op. I think she works for deep state actors, and I think they tell her what to do. I don't even think she's acting independently. And I know, if you had somebody in a Democrat cabinet with this fact pattern, there's not one person who's still trying to wave around the lighter for Tulsi who would not be saying, "Up! It's an op!"
Yeah. Well, I also think people have to understand. I think a lot of people do understand. And, this is hot off the press. I really want to see what the reactions are to this as the day continues. But there is a finality to this moment. Like, this is very much a make or break, shit or get off the pot moment. Like, if you were going to take a stand for peace and against the military-industrial complex, you would do so right now. You would come out and you would say, "No, Mr. President, I was very clear in my assessment that they are not developing a nuclear weapon and that they have no plans to. And if you're going to ignore my assessments like that, then there's no point in me being here. I'm going to resign."
Of course.
That's what you would do if you had any integrity whatsoever.
You're either a careerist or an op or some of both.
Or some of both. It really doesn't matter. What you're not is a bulwark against the military-industrial complex. So that's clearly what you're not. If you were, you would say something right now other than gaslighting everybody who saw plain as day 3 months ago. We're not talking 3 years ago. We're talking a few months ago. After you got the saying they are not on track to have a nuclear weapon. And you just let them twist your words like that, let them lie and then gaslight in this moment when we're in day 5 of violent exchanges between Iran and Israel, when we are closer than ever to World War III. At this moment, you choose to just bullshit and say, no, that's not what I said. You didn't read my whole quote. We're on the same page. That's bullshit. That is absolute chicken shit. And like I said earlier, there's no excuses at this point. This is both inexcusable and unforgivable at this point. Anybody who's been politically awake for the past 20 years has been fearing this more than anything else. This has been the thing that everyone was afraid of for the entire 21st century.
The war with Iran.
The war with Iran.
Yep.
So now we're here. And if you don't have anything to do except gaslight for the guy who's lying us into it, then you're fucking worthless. You're worthless. Tulsi Gabbard is worthless. That is why I had no opinion on her confirmation. I had no opinion on her. Is she worse than whatever stooge he could have picked? No, but she's not better. She's one of them. She is one of them. Yeah, that's it.
And, for the soy boy cucks in our audience, we're sorry to be the ones to tell you this. We know this is rough news for you, but, the only way to stop being a soy boy cock for Tulsi Gabbard is to acknowledge that you have a problem.
Right.
You have a problem. You're a cuck for Tulsi. Stop.
Right.
We saw you guys out there at our confirmation. You had those signs, cucks for Tulsi.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
You got to put that sign away now, and you got to put on your big boy pants.
That's
Time to move on.
Time to move on. Viren Sharma, thanks for the 1999. Appreciate that. Always love the show and its careful curation of topics. I know a lot of hard work and effort goes into each episode. Much appreciated. Thanks. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
That's I look forward to Charles Bukowski did a poem about, people from factories would write him letters about how he knew where it was at. And he did a whole poem saying, I wonder if they know where their letter arrives now.
Right.
I got a boy in a cage who writes all my stuff.
Right.
I feed him raw whores and whiskey and belt buckle him pretty good.
Yeah.
They say my stuff has never been better. So that's what we're going to do to Jake once we get a little more flush.
Yeah, exactly. Meredith Hook, thanks for the donation. That you can admit where you got something wrong is why you guys are the best. Well, thank you. Are you a Pod Save America fan? We could use more of you guys in the audience because you guys tend to have a lot.
Seriously.
Yeah, you guys tend to have a lot of money, judging by the ticket prices of those events. Yes. So thank you.
That's why I went out there. I had to see who would pay $200 to see Pod Save America.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes. Vicky Blair, thanks for the $20. Appreciate that. Finally reading Chaos, Chapter 1, first page. Author says in late 90s he drove a horse and carriage in Central Park.
Oh, yeah.
Is that where you were driving them? Next page says number one song Day of Murders was in the year 2525. Wow, interesting. That's funny. Dee Dee is the best. Yeah, no, that is how we kind of got him to agree to an interview.
Yeah, that's how I got him to come on Jimmy's, because he didn't want to come on at first. And I was like, well, hang on, man. Who did you work for? Because I was a carriage driver, and then that opened up the whole.
Yeah, Russ was able
obviously, we knew the same people.
Yes, so Russ was able to schmooze him into coming on by appealing to their common background as horse and carriage drivers. So yes, we did know that. Let's see. Abiding says Halo jumping Phil Leotardo over Tehran would have better luck on regime change than Bibi and Hegseth in a war room. Yes, they called Phil Leotardo the Shah of Iran in The Sopranos. Kit's Corner in 2002, Jean Chrétien denounced. What is that? I don't even know how do I say that word. Denounced the Iraq War in Canada, wouldn't participate. Now Mark Carney is pushing the buttons for on Iran for Israel. The peacekeeping Canada I knew and loved is, I'm assuming, gone. Okay, so he was the Prime Minister of Canada back in 2002. I never heard of him. Sorry. Don't mean to insult Canada. We love Canada, but I never heard of that guy. So Bibi's the Beast, Trump's the Antichrist, and Huckabee's the Shemp. Yeah, that's right. He's the Shemp of the team. That's right. On the next episode of As the World Burns, says Eric Russo. Yes. Is anyone getting apocalyptic vibes, says Mark Puglisi. Yeah, you're not alone.
A little bit. I'm telling you, man. I'm feeling like I should go back up to Buffalo.
Yeah.
The fuck am I doing down there? I liked it up there.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is certainly something to think about. Okay, let's move right on along. All right, so we're going to take a quick break from the Iran coverage to deal with another rapidly changing and reversing situation, the ICE raids.
If there is one thing better than a taco, it's an iced taco.
Right.
Our great farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business have been stating that our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good long-time workers away from them, with those jobs being almost impossible to replace. Wow, who could have seen that coming? Wow, you mean there are not thousands and thousands of Americans who want to work in a meatpacking plant, slicing up meat all day in 40-degree Fahrenheit temperatures? Really? They weren't able to find a lot of people to replace them. Unbelievable. In many cases, the criminals allowed into our country by the very stupid Biden open borders policy are applying for those jobs. This is not good. Believe me, not good. We must protect our farmers, but get the criminals out of the USA. Changes are coming.
We never got Batya Ungar Sargon's take on that. She didn't start crying. The Americans don't do anything.
They want to work in the slaughterhouse. So ABC News put together a segment about this. Let's take a look.
The Department of Homeland Security now says they'll be pausing most raids on farms, restaurants, and hotels. What's behind that change?
Diane, this is a significant change by the administration, and it comes as the president last week acknowledged that his plans for mass deportations were having a big impact on farmers and the hospitality industry. He publicly acknowledged it last week, and so the Department of Homeland Security issued new guidance saying that they would be pausing most raids on farms, restaurants, and hotels. The president last week said on social media, "Our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good long-time workers away from them." And he said these jobs are almost impossible to replace. Now, our colleague Rachel Scott talked to the president yesterday and asked if ICE agents had gone too far with some of their raids. And the president said no, but he did say that they would be taking it easy on the farmers, essentially because they've had people who've worked for them for a very long time, and that the focus would be on criminals. The president also last night in a social media post, Diane, said that this effort to have the largest deportation effort in history would continue, but the focus would shift away from rural areas and into cities, because the president now with this new policy would be giving some exemptions and a reprieve essentially to farmers. It's really important to note here that according to data from the Agriculture Department, 42% of farm workers are undocumented.
42%. But hey, man, you needn't have worried. Those of you whose only joy in life is to hear about brown people getting thrown into the back of a van and deported, you needn't have worried. This barely lasted a day. Trump officials reverse guidance exempting farms, hotels from immigration raids. Now, there are rumors that Stephen Miller promised him that Afrikaners were going to replace all the immigrants.
Yeah.
We're not sure if that's true. The Department of Home
describe your nephew Stephen Miller as an immigration.
Whoops, sorry about that. The Department of Homeland Security on Monday told staff that it was reversing guidance issued last week that agents were not to conduct immigration raids at farms, hotels, and restaurants, a decision that stood at odds with President Donald Trump's calls for mass deportations of anyone without legal status. Officials from Immigration and Customs Enforcement, including its Homeland Security Investigations Division, told agency leaders in a call Monday that agents must continue conducting immigration raids at agricultural businesses, hotels, and restaurants, according to two people familiar with the call. The new instructions were shared in an 11 a.m. call to representatives from 30 field offices across the country. ICE and HSI field office supervisors began learning about a likely reversal of the exemption policy Sunday after hearing from DHS leadership that the White House did not support it, according to one person with knowledge of the reversal. You know, Trump is the person who put that out, but okay. ICE has been under significant pressure from White House officials to ramp up arrests in an effort to fulfill Trump's goal of enacting the largest domestic deportation operation in history.
You all right?
Yeah. I messed up the slide a little. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller said last month that the administration wants ICE to make a minimum of 3,000 arrests a day. In an interview last week, Trump border czar Tom Homan told the Post that arrests had increased to around 2,000 a day. Miller, an architect of much of Trump's aggressive immigration policy, had privately opposed carving out exceptions for certain industries that rely heavily on workers without legal status, according to two people with knowledge of his advocacy in recent days against the measure. Brooke Rollins, the agriculture secretary, meanwhile, was on the opposite side of the issue, stressing to Trump the concerns that those in the farming industry had raised about losing workers. So, yes, other than emotional satisfaction to keep his base distracted from the fact that Donald Trump and his entire criminal class are the ones who have actually destroyed the country and are the actual reason they can't get proper wages, are the actual reason that their formerly prosperous towns have become meth addicted hellholes. He has to continue this performance of mass immigration to keep them satisfied. That's really the reversal, right?
Yes.
He has to keep them entertained. The fantasy that all of these Americans were going to come out of the woodwork to go pick strawberries and work in meatpacking plants, that was always obvious bullshit to anyone who paused to think about it for a second. Now, by all accounts, Stephen Miller, serious crackpot in the administration among many, is one of the driving forces in keeping this going. And according to the reporting here, he's the one that really twisted Trump's arm not to change course. Now, David Glosser, Stephen Miller's uncle, told CNN his nephew is an immigration hypocrite. It was a very interesting interview. We're going to listen to a little bit of it.
You describe your nephew, Stephen Miller, as an immigration hypocrite. What do you mean by that?
It's an important question. And I have to preface my response by saying that I wrote this article more in sadness than in anger or resentment. Our family history is entirely dependent upon the fact that our family was able to escape from a terrible situation in what is now the country of Belarus. In those days was part of the Russian Empire.
Your family first came here, I think, in the early 1900s.
The first of our particular group came over in 1903. They worked for a while peddling fruit and doing sweatshop work, and then they were able to round up enough money to bring over the rest of the immediate family. Everybody else who didn't make it, they were all swept away in the Holocaust and dead.
And so you're saying the hypocrisy
had, well, let's put it simply, had we not been able to enter America when we did, Stephen Miller would never exist.
And so this notion of chain migration, which is something the administration calls the opportunity for somebody who's come to the United States to apply to get their parents to come.
Just so everybody knows, this was back in 2018. So when he says the administration, he's talking about Trump 1.
Trump 1.
Their cousins, brothers or sisters to come. That has been part of your family history, of Stephen Miller's family history.
That is the classic story of virtually everybody in America who isn't a Native American or who was brought over unwillingly as a slave. That's everybody's story.
You referred to your nephew Stephen as an immigration hypocrite. Do you see this administration itself as hypocritical? The First Lady, her parents just got citizenship based on what the administration would call chain migration.
Well, let's think of it for a second. As far as I understand, Mr. Trump's grandfather came over, or either his father or his grandfather came over as an immigrant from Germany, trying to avoid draft into the German army. He's trying to find a new life here in the United States.
Look at that, draft dodging. I didn't know that was genetic. I didn't know there was a gene for draft dodging.
His mother, I think, escaped the poverty of Scotland,
yeah.
Looking for a better opportunity in New York City. And he is married as what's the count now? 3 immigrant women in the United States, and has just through chain migration, her parents have been made citizens of the United States, and I welcome them.
You know, it's obviously always difficult to talk about race.
So what? You can only immigrate here if you're a piece of ass? That's not fair. That's not right. He's married 3 immigrant pieces of ass. Is that the message we want to give to America? If you're not a piece of ass, you can't immigrate here?
Yeah.
Stephen Miller, you know, he was in the Bukele Oval Office press conference. He was the most unhinged in that meeting about just lying about what the Supreme Court had found. Now, I have said, hey, I was in an industry where wages got suppressed by people who legally should not have been working. I've known a lot of people in construction. I'm not saying there's not industries or case-by-case basis where the employers are using immigrants to suppress wages. I'm not even saying that nothing happened in the border under Biden, and I have long felt that the union movement was getting more powerful than it's been in decades. And yeah, did they possibly have more open immigration policies because they wanted to defang that movement? It's possible. I would not rule that out. But what I would also say is, of the various reasons that life for working people in this country has degraded since 1970, that is one of the smaller, less relevant reasons for why your life sucks now as a worker in this country. They only want you talking about this one issue because every other issue leads to them. Every other explanation for why working people cannot live a high quality of life, kind of uniquely amongst Western industrialized countries, they don't want you talking about what those other countries have that you do not have. And when they do talk about those things, they'll hit you with a very distorted, oh, people are waiting 6 years for a knee replacement. You know, they'll hit you with these things. What they don't want to tell you is 500,000 people don't go bankrupt from medical bankruptcies. If you need life-saving care there, you're not going to wind up losing all of your retirement savings to pay for it. They don't want you talking about that. They don't want you thinking about that. And we know if you do put that in front of people, remember Bernie Sanders, when he went on Fox News, he had a Fox audience. They were all cheering. If you present this to people, they get it. And that's why they cannot afford to have this presented to you. But if they're not going to present to you why you don't have health care, why the wages don't go up, while the share of national prosperity productivity gains increasingly get filtered to a more and more rarefied, smaller and smaller group of people, they don't want you looking at that. They have to give you someplace else to direct the blame. It's the immigrant, man. It's the oldest fascist trick in the book. Everybody with an ounce of sense knew Americans were not going to go do these jobs. That you were not, the idea that, yeah, man, you get these farm workers out here, Americans are going to go work in a meatpacking plant en masse. The Wall Street Journal put out an article about this. You have some of these meatpacking plants have dropped to 15% of capacity after ICE raids. Where are these Americans who are going to go take these jobs and drive up the wages? What happened? What happened?
Yeah. And assuming they want to, let's just assume they want to. We just saw a recent example of what corporate America will do when faced with the decision of having to increase wages to get people to work, or simply limit supply, which means do without that extra labor, and increase prices and say, well, this is because of inflation. And what happened? Their profits went through the roof. The fact that corporate profits soared during a time of inflation should tell you that they are willing to, when push comes to shove, simply choke supply, simply limit supply, which of course means limiting labor costs, which means once the immigrants leave, it's not a given at all that they are going to replace them with Americans at higher wages. That is just cope. Now, as for this recent reversal, this has everything to do with the fact that the base is furious about this war with Iran. That's what this has to do with. This is still the issue because of the events of the past few years, right? Without litigating that in detail now. Because the border was his strongest issue in the campaign and remains his strongest issue to this day, it's not nearly, his numbers on this issue are not nearly what they were during the campaign season or even in the lame duck session or even over the winter, but they're still his strongest. It is still his strongest issue by the numbers, which means in a crisis, what do? You revert to your strongest issue, right? So you're trying to get as much focus paid to your tough border crackdowns as you can while you saber rattle as loud as you can for World War III. And we've seen his influencer douchebags try to spin this, right? Charlie Kirk, well, we have to be very vigilant because Biden opened up the border, so there could be Iranian terror cells ready to spring up here. Laura Loomer, when it came to the No King's Day thing, well, you got to be careful. The borders are open. These big crowds out there. Something could happen. They go back to this issue because
that was like George Bush. After a while, literally everything he talked about. See, that's like the terrorists.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They go back to this issue whenever they're in trouble because by the numbers, it's their best issue. And that's what this was. You know, it's funny how the Iran war really pushed the LA riots almost completely out of the news. Understandably so. I mean, this is as high stakes as it gets, right? But they were on their heels on immigration enforcement until this Iran war started, and then people's eye went off that for a little while. So now they're trying to, rally the base around this issue once again. But when this issue was in the news, they were losing on it. They had to pull back and say, okay, we're going to stop the workplace raids. They weren't stopping the workplace raids because all of a sudden, what, you think all of a sudden hotel industry leaders and farm CEOs got in their ear? They've been on this page for years, decades. You don't think Trump knows that? Trump worked in the hospitality. He's a hotel owner himself. He knows what's going to happen to the hotel industry if you deport all of the maids, right? So it wasn't that motivated the calling off of the workplace raids. It was the fact that not just L.A., most intensely L.A., but cities around the country showed up and protested. And he realized, you know what? This just isn't going to work. So they had to back down. And then once they pissed off the base on Iran, now they're like, all right, I guess we need the base back. So we're going to have to say, okay, never mind that. Because the hardcore MAGA base was not happy when he called off the ICE raids. Because they don't think about it in this way. They think about it the way Russ said they think about it. They just get an emotional rush out of seeing people with fewer prospects than themselves get kicked around. That is what powerless people
It's the only thing that
pleasure
gets
in.
them out of bed in the morning.
Exactly. So that's what happened there. We will see how much longer it continues because it was proven just a week ago, even this issue is starting to become a loser for them. Not to mention the fact ICE is running out of money. ICE is running, what, $1 billion in the red? They need more money.
They say they'll run out of money by next month.
Right. So if they don't pass the big, beautiful bill, which doesn't look like it's going to pass in its current form, then they're going to have to start taking money from other places and putting it into ICE, which is also going to create a political problem. So this is just a political disaster. Like I said, the administration, they're doing a lot of losing. They're doing a lot of failing, a lot of chaos here. And this Iran shit is not going to make passing that big, beautiful bill any easier. If they can get that bill passed as is, ICE is funded to the hilt in that bill. But that doesn't look like it's going to be an easy fight to win. And it's getting harder every day that this insanity goes on.
Yep.
All right. Virtuoso, I know exactly how your folks felt, Keaton. Back in 98, it was Operation Desert Fox when Clinton randomly bombed Iraq and my 12-year-old self was up in the wee hours of the morning looking up at the sky. Thank you, Virtuoso. Tupac Amaru, thanks for the $9.99 super sticker and the LOL. We made you laugh there. Thank you. Stank Jesus, I like that name. No matter who you vote for, you get John McCain. Yep, that's right. That's what Dave Smith said. We're going to get to that in a bit. My Lord, please help. I can't find Tulsi's OnlyFans link, says Russell's peasant mind. Thank you for that, my friend. Appreciate that. EO Shush says, Tulsi Gabbard says Iran is not close to a nuclear bomb. Does she have videotapes of me with kids? No, then I don't care what she says. Yeah, there you go. So is now the right moment to invite Daryl Cooper on to talk Israel, coalition building, priorities, first things first. Thank you, Bonzo Beans. Ardeen W, empire is a hell of a drug. That's right. Well said. Eric Cusso, if you attain power, it's because the system allowed it. That's also correct. Absolutely. Just want to thank our government's foreign policies for showing how nice they treat us in comparison. Thank you, Ham Hawk. Appreciate that. Terrorists, your game is through. You're going to have to answer to America. Fuck yeah. Thank you, Get Up King. Appreciate that very much. Okay. All right, folks. Let's take a quick game break to hear from one of our dissident sponsors. So, by the way, folks, if you have an art project or music or a book or anything that you would like to promote on the show, or a small business or anything you're involved in, you can send us an email at dudissidents.com/sponsors. That takes you to a contact form where you can fill out information, including like your budget and things like that, a little bit about what your project is, and we'll get in touch if it's a good fit. So one good fit is a bard and a guitar, which is the name of the artist. The album is called Dogmatics. Dogmatics is a musical retelling of the Jonah fable in a modern-day setting. This satire album follows a bard and a guitar tasked by God to help the people of a city whose politics he can't stand. Featuring reinterpretations of All the Girls Go Crazy, No Irish Need Apply, and Love Me, I'm a Liberal. Find it on most music streaming platforms by searching for Dogmatics by a bard and a guitar. You can also follow this link here that we made, dudissidents.com/bard. You can find it, like I said, Apple Music, Spotify, or go to this link for the socials, the dudissidents.com/bard. Okay. We will move right on along here, folks. Okay, what do we got? Okay, all right. Now the going gets rough. Okay, so I think you could make a good case that the two most sort of relevant intellectuals, if you want to call them that, of the MAGA movement are Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon. They're the ones who seem to understand the mass appeal of MAGA versus a standard Republican politician, right? It's not an endorsement of everything they think or everything they say, far from it, but they seem to really be able to best crystallize what differentiates MAGA Republicanism from, say, George W. Bush or Mitt Romney Republicanism. And they are not...
I have always said, just to interject, if Trump's fragile ego were not such that he can only tolerate the presence of fawning simps around him, he would have done a second term, because he would have kept Bannon on as his rove, and Bannon definitely would have steered him into a second term.
Yes, in 2020. He would have won that year had he kept him. Yes, I think that is definitely correct. But both Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson have their reservations about the Iran war because their political instincts are much better than those of, say, Mark Levin and Laura Loomer. So here is Steve Bannon saying, if Israel's going to go alone, then take care of your deal. You decide to go it alone. You said you didn't need us. And not only do they want defense, they want us to go on offense. And then he features Tucker Carlson's tweet about this. So here is Steve Bannon advising Israel to go it alone, obviously advising against intervention from the United States.
They got it. If you're going to go alone, you can take care of your deal or not. You don't need us. Decide to go alone. Decide to reject it. No, we don't need you. We're going to go it alone. And the go it alone lasts about 6 hours. Not only do they want defense, they want us to go on offense. Don't believe me. Tucker Carlson's got a tweet up. I will not repeat the names on this show at this time. I have not verified that. But Tucker Carlson's on fire. We're now calling out names, naming names.
All right. Well, we will name the names in the tweet. We'll read it. So the tweet he's referring to here is, the real divide isn't between people who support Israel and people who support Iran or the Palestinians. The real divide is between people who casually encourage violence and those who seek to prevent it, between warmongers and peacemakers. Who are the warmongers? They would include anyone who's calling Donald Trump today to demand airstrikes and other direct U.S. military involvement in a war with Iran. On that list, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, Rupert Murdoch, Ike Perlmutter, and Miriam Adelson. At some point, they will all have to answer for this, but you should know their names now. So Tucker then, I guess, came to, I'm assuming Bannon is in Washington, D.C., where Tucker went on Bannon's show, and then Bannon came on Tucker's show. And the first item on the list here at timecode 0.00, will the Iran war be the downfall of MAGA? So we're going to play a couple of clips from this section. And it's interesting what they say and what they don't say, because what ultimately is discrediting about both of them, to be honest, is the fact that they act as though there's some mysterious hidden hand in Washington that guides foreign policy, but it can't just be Israel, right? They just won't name Israel because they both say how pro-Israel they are. So they're anti-war, but they don't want to criticize Israel too much. So this is kind of interesting. Let's take a look.
Trump gets elected in November on the back of this amazing coalition, unprecedented coalition, different parts of American society. You never thought of anything in common. Trump paints a picture that makes it really obvious that the old structure, left versus right, Democrat versus Republican, is basically BS and a control device, I think. This is my interpretation anyway. So he creates this brand new coalition. New York Times writes almost nothing about it because it's such a massive threat. But this coalition, which you described earlier and more precisely than anybody by far, is the defining fact of American politics. And it kind of feels like it's being blown up over this war in Iran. That's my observation. Correct me.
Okay, so he doesn't really correct him. That's a pretty good read on things, and that's you get it straight from the horse's mouth there. Feels like the coalition is being blown up over this. And from the look on Bannon's face, you could tell he pretty much agrees. That is quite the screenshot of Steve Bannon's expression there.
Steve.
Slappy Steve. All right, here we go.
Well, I think if you look at the three planks, stop the forever wars, seal the border and deport the illegal alien, invaders, and redo the commercial relationships in the world around trade deals and bring high value added manufacturing jobs back here. They're trying to shut all three down, right? But the one that they're obsessed with the most, which I find strange, is the forever wars. They've got to be in the forever wars, and particularly in the Middle East. I mean, this is what, and I'm a big supporter of Israel.
Yes.
And I'm telling people, hey, if we get sucked into this war,
Okay, so you heard him say, I'm a big supporter of Israel, and Tucker says, yes. If you in June of 2025 can say you are a big supporter of Israel, that is a statement of extreme moral depravity at this point. Extreme moral bankruptcy. Not only is it morally bankrupt, it's intellectually bankrupt given what you are about to say in just a moment.
Inexorably, looks like it's going to happen on the combat side. It's going to not just blow up the coalition, it's also going to thwart what we're doing with the most important thing, which is the deportation of the illegal alien invaders that are here. If we don't do that, we don't have a country. And you just see right now, they're doubling, tripling out. This is actually potentially a real civil war in our biggest cities. And President Trump has to have our backing. And this came out of nowhere.
Okay, so notice what he says there. This is a civil war in our biggest cities. President Trump has to have our backing. He is saying that from the standpoint of knowing that this is going to instigate civil war-like conditions, but egging it on anyway, because he feels like that is the most urgent task, is to deport the invaders from all of these cities. So again, I don't play this as an endorsement of everything he says, far from it. But he is correct in his assessment that, yes, the political capital that you lose from declaring war with Iran is going to make that much, much harder, because you already had to make some concessions based on the LA protests.
I mean, the trade deals you saw, he put together Liberation Day, but they've been thinking about it a long time. I mean, Trump's been talking about this since Lou Dobbs back in the 90s. He lays that out there. It's very sophisticated. He's got Scott Bessent running around with Lutnick. They're trying to make these deals. He sealed the border already in the first 60 days. Now we're really going down.
I've made a fortune on the taco trade.
And then out of nowhere comes a war with Persia. It's like a shooting war with Persia.
Out of nowhere? Gotta play that again. So we're making progress on the deportations, on the Liberation Day tariffs. Yeah, those went great.
Already in the first 60 days. Now we're really going down and actually having the deportation, see the fight. And then out of nowhere comes a war with Persia. It's like a shooting war with Persia.
It did not come out of nowhere. Apparently, he didn't watch our show this last Sunday night, because I outlined on Sunday how actually the powers that be have been maneuvering towards a war with Persia, as you say it, since the George H.W. Bush days. So this hardly came out of nowhere. This was pretty carefully orchestrated point for point. By who? By who? Well, you won't say it, but it's by that country you like so much, Israel. But you won't go there. You won't say that. He goes further.
A massive shooting war with Persia. It's like, how did this happen? And that's why I've been up as a defender of Israel and someone that's very pro-Israel. I've been saying, hey, this is going to be the end of Israel because of the way these decisions have been made. And you have, I think, shockingly,
they are making the decisions. These are it's not, so he goes on. He goes on.
Today, early when we had you on the show, you bring up a point that we have to address, which I think it's the thing itself. What is it about this apparatus? We're prepping for a major shooting war. And how did it happen? I think what's most shocking is what you said. Hey, it was like Iraq. You're inexorably just drawn and decisions kind of just happen. It's like, what's happened over the last 72 hours? How did we even get to this point? How did this actually happen? Who made these decisions when we had the intel out there?
What do you mean, who made these decisions? Israel made the decisions. This is a part of their grift here. They act like there's this shadowy group of bureaucrats who infiltrate each administration, whether it's Obama or Trump, and they have their way. In this case, it is plainly obvious why this is happening, who wanted it to happen, how they got it done, and whose decision it is to instigate war with Iran. He's acting like there are these like hidden bureaucrats who want to instigate war with Iran and how that's terrible for both the United States and Israel. No, Israel did it. Israel obviously did it. Like, you make yourself ridiculous by saying, I love Israel, I'm pro-Israel, but I'm worried for Israel because the deep state is sabotaging Donald Trump and agitating for war with Iran. Who attacked Iran? Israel. It's as simple as that. I laid out in the last show. Decades-long project led largely by Israel to attack Iran. So it's such cope at the end of the day. Like, it's so ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous angle.
Well, it really shows you the line, even people taking theoretically the other side within MAGA won't cross. You got Steve Bannon. Yeah, I support Israel. Tucker Carlson, too. Oh, I love Israel. Why?
Why?
Why do you love Israel?
I love countries that don't bomb babies. I love countries that don't drop 2,000 pounds on babies. I don't know about you.
Well, and especially Tucker Carlson has been one of the few who's willing to actually admit that in that corner of the universe. We had Munther Isaac on. So why would you talk about how you love it? Really? You love genocidal nations?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Your next episode, Pol Pot, time for a reevaluation.
Exactly. So I know that sort of muddies the segment a bit, but I just couldn't help but talk about that because even these guys, even the more red-pilled anti-war faction of MAGA is blind to a reality that's right in front of their face. To act as if there's some vague, hidden saboteurs somewhere who are undermining Trump.
Did it?
Who did it? What do you mean, who did it? They're on camera bragging about having done it. This didn't just happen out of nowhere. We've all seen the videos. They've been wanting to attack Iran for decades. But anyway, all of that notwithstanding, the point is that they are worried that this is going to shatter the MAGA coalition, and they are correct in that assessment. Tucker Carlson also made a point to put in his newsletter, which is apparently a paywalled newsletter, so we only have screenshots of this. We don't have the actual link. Since Russell and I are not paid members of the Tucker Carlson newsletter. Tucker Carlson calls Trump complicit after Israel's attack on Iran. So Yashar Ali grabbed a screenshot from the newsletter here. Here's what Tucker Carlson, who has been aggressively advocating against military action against the Islamic Republic of Iran, had to say in his newsletter this morning. Despite being complicit in the act of war, the president hopes last night's events will help his ongoing nuclear negotiations with Iran. So Donald Trump was asked about this, and this is how you know that MAGA is deeply wounded when Donald Trump goes after Tucker Carlson.
Criticizing you, saying that you're complicit in the war.
I don't know what Tucker Carlson is saying. Let him go get a television network and say it so that people listen.
And quickly,
The failing Tucker Carlson
The failing,
podcast.
uninfluential Tucker Carlson show.
Tucker Carlson criticizing you, saying that you were complicit in the war.
I don't know what Tucker Carlson is saying. Let him go get a television network and say it so that people listen.
And quickly, have you spoken to Zelensky before your buyback?
Not only is he dissing Tucker, he's kind of dissing the whole podcast media space, which he, really tried to
network.
Yeah, get on
network.
TV, and then people will listen to you. You didn't act that way
pretty out
about
of
Joe
touch.
Rogan. Yeah, pretty out of touch. Yeah, you seem to really use that podcast space to get elected, and now I guess your true feelings about the podcast space come out now that you've won. So he follows this up with a tweet. Somebody please explain to kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Kooky. So gets a dig in at the mic and then tweets against him. Michael Tracy says, awesome stuff. Yes, because he also tweeted out, America first means many great things, including the fact that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Make America great again. And then, of course, somebody please explain to kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So Laura Loomer loves this. Donald Trump is officially done with Tucker Carlson. Don't take money from Arabs and become blinded by irrational hatred for Jews and Israel like Tucker did. Again, where the hell are you getting that? The guy says, I love Israel. in these clips, Tucker's whole reputation just imploded because he decided to sell out to shady Arabs who bought his mouth. No, that's not a racist thing to say at all. So Blakely replies, what really happened is that you guys all pretended to be anti-war, and it was always a fraud, so you guys are mad he stuck to the script because none of you meant America first. Yes, that's exactly right. Candace Owens also nailed this. She says, Donald Trump just completely fractured his base, and he did it for the very neocons who minted the Never Trump movement. Truly unbelievable. Yes, that is correct. When there was a divide in his coalition, what did he do? He sided with the Never Trump faction. And by Never Trump faction, we mean guys like Mark Levin, who I'm going to show you in a bit, has a history as a Never Trumper. But you know things are bad when Alex Jones chimes in. Trump attacking Tucker Carlson for not supporting a new world war is not something any sane person should support. This is the stuff nightmares are made of. It's all crumbling down now.
I still got another $980 million to pay off.
Yeah, right.
I don't need this shit right now.
I need this shit right now. God damn it. So here's a Never Trumper. Yes, that Candace Owens was talking about, trying to wrap himself in a MAGA towel now. We in real MAGA, real American patriots, stand with you, Mr. President, our military, and our Israeli allies. Whatever is happening, we should strongly support our president and our troops. Pray for them, speak out for them, and condemn any of the fake MAGA grifters, Marxists, Islamists, and the rest who seek to undermine our country, especially at a time like this. President Trump has made clear.
The Marxist.
Yeah, Steve Bannon, the Marxist, right? Yeah. President Trump has made clear that he wants peace and that the Iranian regime with nuclear weapons is not about peace but genocide. For the vast majority of Americans, nothing could be clearer. Well, you're wrong about that, my friend. You're wrong about that. Very wrong about that. This is going to be...
This is really just telling on the linguistic techniques they use to misdirect and brainwash people. Like, it doesn't really matter who they're attacking. They're Islamists and Marxists.
Yeah.
So if they're going to apply that to Steve Bannon, they're going to apply that to Tucker Carlson. What does that tell you about what's really going on when they call Barack Obama, king of the neoliberals, a socialist?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We're going to talk about this in a later segment, but just so everybody understands here, where is it? Sorry. There it is. Only 16% of Americans, according to the latest YouGov poll, think the U.S. military should get involved in the conflict between Israel and Iran. Only 19% of Trump voters believe that we should be involved. So the idea that this is supported by the vast majority of Americans, is nonsense. And what
Right.
Candace Owens said is absolutely true. He's taking the side of the neocons who, yes, in this case, many of them were never Trumpers like Mark Levin. I remember this. Mark Levin was a vehement supporter of Ted Cruz in the 2016 primary, to the point where, yes, in the last days of those primaries, April and May, I would never vote for Trump. I won't back Trump in the general. And this is the faction that Donald Trump throws in with at this moment. Why? Because, as Dave Smith said, whoever you think you're voting for, you get John McCain at the end, because he's going to side with power at the end. At the end of the day, especially if he's being blackmailed, which it looks like they got something on him. He's definitely compromised, right?
Yep.
I mean, there's no doubt, whatever you interpret that
Everything they said about Russiagate was true, but it was Israelgate.
But it was Israel. It was Israel. The man is definitely, without getting into specifics, because we don't know the specifics, he's compromised by Israel. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. And they own his ass. There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever about that, which means he will do things that on the surface make absolutely no sense. It makes absolutely no sense to say, I don't care what my director of national intelligence said about their nuclear program. I say they were close to building a bomb. It makes no sense that after 10 years, coincidentally, the 10-year anniversary of the Golden Escalator ride was, I think, 2 days ago. After 10 years of warring, not just with Democrats, but with many within the party, we remember, especially in the early days, you know, it was a tough road to that nomination. After 10 years of warring with these people on a dime, you turn and you back them over the intellectual godfathers of your movement. I mean, Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson, they are two of the real intellectual pillars of MAGA. He would not have gotten elected in 2016 without Steve Bannon. When they brought Steve Bannon in as the chief strategist of the campaign, they were losing to Hillary by 13 points. He turned that around in 90 days and won them that race. Without him, there's absolutely no way he'd have ever won. And Tucker is amongst the most influential media figures in the entire country. And they have your back. And the reason they have your back is because they understand the mass appeal of an anti-war, border hawk, sort of culturally conservative, economically populist candidate and leader. Again, I don't say that to endorse all of those things. I'm just saying, objectively, they understand the appeal of that better than anybody. And that is why Trump and Trumpism remained viable throughout these 10 years, despite everything that was thrown at them from every angle. And you fucking flicked them aside like garbage to start a war with Iran? To do the thing that almost the entire country has been afraid of for 20 years? In this moment, you decide to just tell them to fuck off like that? Well, I don't care what Tucker has to say. You should get a TV network. He's kooky.
Yeah.
That tells you, man, he is not in control. He is under the control of Israel.
Yeah, he is very much like Israel. He's gotten away with that kind of behavior for so long that he's emboldened and arrogant.
Right.
He's used to being able. Who thought that saying I prefer soldiers who haven't been captured was politically survivable?
Right.
So now he thinks he's bulletproof, right? Yeah, fuck these guys. I'm the president. But yeah, as you can see in that polling, and again, just from our own observation, I don't see anyone really like rank and file people who are coming out and defending Trump right now. Like, I'm really not seeing it, man. I am seeing a lot of people saying, now what do we do? Or, yeah, I've been had. Or, wow, I'll never vote again for anybody. That's what I'm saying. I'm not seeing people saying, shut up. You gotta back him. Iran is getting a nuclear weapon. Not at all.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
only seeing that from the professional grifters. I am not seeing that from any real people.
Even most of the professional grifters are not going that far in terms of like the MAGA grifters. Like Levin is just shameless. He doesn't care, right? I mean, he's always wanted this. He's always been a neocon. He very opportunistically glommed onto MAGA because they were the winning team and whatever. He has a radio show. What is he going to do? Go up there and talk about fucking Chase Oliver? Like, you can't do that.
Right,
So he kind of bent the knee. But in terms of like the MAGA people, like you see like Charlie Kirk, Benny Johnson, Gunther Eagleman, saying basically trust the plan. Like that's as far as they'll go. They'll be like, all right, let's not jump to conclusions. Let's not lose our heads here. Let's trust that things will work out. Even they are not going as far as to say, no, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. We got to get involved. Trump is doing the right thing. They're not backing the play. They are just hedging and buying time and probably praying to whatever God they believe in that he is going to do the right thing so that they are not embarrassed. That's the most you're seeing in the pro-Trump direction in the online space. You're seeing virtually nobody, except like Laura Loomer, who's a complete whack job. Like it's basically her and no one else who are saying, no, we're backing this play 100%.
No, look. When this whole thing collapses, and we've said this for a very long time, all of these MAGA influencers who built their entire brand around sucking off Donald Trump and pumping people off to think this movement was going to empower them and was going to improve their lives. When all this falls apart, they're done. What are they going to do? Become Walmart greeters? Like, where are they going to be able to get a job that is going to be commensurate with the lifestyle to which they become accustomed? And they're not going to be able to pivot away from this, for the most part. I mean, not at a level where they're going to be able to maintain what they have now. Who the hell is going to take the Benny Johnson seriously when this all blows up?
Yeah, no. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. Really is. Really is. And that's why, I mean, Dave Smith is smart. He got out at the first sign of trouble, because he realized,
he's getting out early.
Yeah.
Well, and he always kept one foot out.
Yeah, he kept
but
one foot out.
These people who really have built their entire brand around Patriot, water, and hope,
right?
Yeah, they're fucked.
Yeah. To be fair, Dave was never one of them. He played footsie with them for reasons we can speculate, which I think was a huge error in judgment at best, which, to be fair, he admits in no uncertain terms. That's the next segment. But yeah, man, these influencers, and I'm so glad that they are referred to as influencers and not commentators, because that's how I always saw them. They're brand ambassadors. Right.
Yes.
They are Ronald McDonald's. They're not commentators. They're influencers. And their brand has now become extraordinarily toxic to the point where Donald Trump is taking Mark Levin's side over Tucker Carlson. I mean, it doesn't get more pathetic than that for the MAGA movement. That's it. That's the end. That's the end right there. You got Tucker Carlson and Steve Bannon blowing the whistle on this, and he's going with never Trumper at one point, Mark Levin. Sad. All right. Sammy says, what happened in the last 6 months that the so-called peace president flipped? Blackmail, or was this the plan all along? No, I think it was the plan all along. I mean, both. I think he is blackmailed. I think they definitely have shit on him.
Look, man, get a little packet of ketchup, slap it on your ear.
Yeah.
Hello, White House.
That's right. But even beyond that, I mean, this is why, I did the full half-hour piece on this on Sunday. Going back to 2016, they installed him. The Israelis helped put him in power because you can't get a war with Iran overnight. There are certain things that had to be done first. They had to scrap the nuclear deal that Obama put in place. And they also needed a Pearl Harbor event, which meant agitating with the Palestinians, right? And so, look, just like we didn't go into Iraq immediately after 9/11. 9/11 was the catalyzing event. That was the Pearl Harbor. And then a year and a half later, and while we're at war, we expand that war to Iraq. Well, this is the same thing. Same timeline here. October 7th was 2023. Year and a half later, boom, Iran. September 11th, 2001 was the Pearl Harbor event. About a year and a half later is when the Iraq War started. The Iraq War started March of 2003. So it's about the same time differential. And so, I think it was planned all along. I think he is compromised. I think he is blackmailed, which is why they chose him,
Yep.
amongst a couple other reasons. The other reason is he's just a mindless fucking showman who is completely for
We
sale.
know, Donald. She
Yeah.
told you she was 18. We know.
Yeah,
we
right, yeah,
know.
exactly.
Don't worry. We
Yeah.
cover it up for you. No problem.
No
my
problem. You
friend.
just go. You just have to do a nuclear attack on Iran. Yes.
And no one ever has to find out that you fuck kids.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Let's see here. Trump shitty wig Velcro says, I don't care what she said. What am I, a schmuck? I'm going to listen to an op. There you go. Thank you. Daria. Good one. Daria, thanks for the $5. Russell, genuinely, this is $5 toward your bus ticket to Buffalo. Consider Montreal and Canada, too. They would love you there. There you go.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Gavin Hillick says, I don't care what Lady Tulsi says. They don't agree. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yes, thank you. Ryan, thanks for the €20. Those agricultural jobs and factory jobs are going away in 15 years tops. AI and robotics are already here. There's no stopping it, so it doesn't matter. Thank you, Ryan. The French Laundry says, I wanted to do some passport bro action in Iran. I guess my 20-something-year-old ass is going there whether I like it or not now. Hashtag U.S. Army. Thank you. Richard from Buffalo says, Russ, stop saying Buffalo will be safe for World War III. Rents are rising as you say it, LOL. By the way, we have a U.S. Air Force base and a major power plant in Niagara Falls. Interesting. Yes, Russ is going to drive up housing prices in Buffalo.
Single-handedly.
We'll gentrify it from afar, right? Okay. What do we have here? Noah Goop says, sorry, guys, I didn't catch any of what you said about Tulsi. When the segment started, the blood rushed out of my head, if you catch my drift. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Noah. Mark Pugliese says, Russ, do you remember an off-Broadway play about Bukowski?
No, I don't.
I don't remember that
we should
either.
produce that.
Yeah.
I really like the movie Barfly that he wrote loosely based on his own life.
Huh.
You ever see that, kid? You never saw that?
No, I never saw that.
That's Mickey Rourke in the de facto Bukowski role with Faye Dunaway.
Okay. All right. Interesting. When was that? Like, what, 80s, 90s?
That was like 87, 88. I worked for the entertainment section of the school newspaper. I interviewed Barbie Schrader. He directed it.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yep.
Cool. All right. We're going to move right on along here. All right, folks. The MAGA implosion continues. Dave Smith gave Breaking Points the exclusive on this. True to his word, tweets Crystal Ball. Comic Dave Smith apologizes for his Trump support and even calls for Trump's impeachment and removal after Trump helps launch an Iran war. Full segment will post shortly. We don't need to watch that. Here's the relevant part.
7, that the Pentagon W. Bush, that we cannot go to war with Iran because we do not have escalation dominance against them, essentially meaning that they can hit all of our bases and embassies in the region, and we are very vulnerable to them. And we've already seen demonstrated since the Israeli attack that the Iranian, the missiles that they sent last year toward Israel, as many of us guessed, that wasn't really their best. They were intentionally making an attack that wouldn't really hurt anybody, that wouldn't really lead to a war, which Iran has done over and over again. But now we've pushed them to the point where they probably don't feel that they have the option not to respond. And Donald Trump telling them to come back to the negotiating table now is a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, what a impotent leader to be sitting there talking about coming back to the negotiating table. It's like sitting after Pearl Harbor and telling FDR, now's the time to go negotiate with the Japanese. Negotiations are over now. The time for negotiations was before this. And so, yeah, Donald Trump looks, and man, I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one. But he should be impeached and removed for this one, and not on some not on some ridiculous Nancy Pelosi. Of course, the Congress will never do it because they're all a bunch of corrupt hacks.
This is the one thing they support. This is
Donald Trump should be impeached and removed for this. All of his supporters should turn on him. It's the absolute betrayal of everything that he ran and campaigned on and everything that he stood for. And I will say, despite the fact that, you know, Donald Trump supporters have been labeled like a cult following, and that certainly is true for a percentage of his supporters, he is going to lose his coalition over this. I don't just speak for myself when I say there are a lot of us who simply will not go along with this. So it's just a devastating mistake. By the way, on top of that, he's also going to lose the deportation fight because of this. Because right now he needed all the political capital he could have to turn that, you know, you got a majority support for deportations, but the minority is very mobilized and they're out and they're protesting all around the country. He needed all of his political capital for that move. So here's what we got. The neocons win. More war abroad and, you know, bomb the world and invite the world. No matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain.
That's all true. That's all true. And, you know, he's the first kind of high profile guy to say it, impeach and remove from office. But yeah, man, if this keeps going the way it goes, we are going to have to start building momentum behind that, because what it's going to take is for a supermajority of people. Once again, only 16% of Americans think the U.S. military should get involved in this conflict. If that is where he takes it, this becomes political poison. Political poison. And Donald Trump at that point becomes political poison. Now, Donald Trump is a lame duck. Donald Trump is not seeking a third term. He's selling some hats, but he has publicly said he's not going to try and maneuver his way into a third term. So he's done in a few years. And if this goes the way it's looking like it will, this is completely toxic at this point. So at that point, you got the Democrats. They'll vote to impeach just because, right? They don't really care about the Iran war. They'll just like, yeah, whatever. If we have to use this to impeach Trump, they will.
You know, you never know. You never know what AIPAC tells them they want.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it would be a little bit, I mean, maybe. But I have a feeling they could get a lot of Democrat support for impeachment.
Yeah,
at that point, you got to get half of the caucus.
Hey, man, the AIPAC handlers call these whores and tell them, Trump is our guy. We are fighting right now with Iran. Don't worry, we can't even serve another term. What do you want?
They'll put another guy in.
They'll say, well, we don't want to do it in wartime.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is that if the people are this much against something, it can become very, very toxic. And I think that is a very, very serious point to be making, that we do have to start talking about lobbying to impeach if he decides to start this war, especially if he usurps Congress's power, which we're going to get into in a later segment. But of course, Dave Smith was not blind to what a warmonger Donald Trump was. So here is a little montage from Milk Bar TV. Shout out to them for editing this together. He was really a Trump supporter for a very brief window of time, as you'll see here.
I would be very happy for to see Donald Trump impeached for the illegal, immoral, borderline war of genocide that he's been helping the Saudis conduct in Yemen. Even grading on a curve. He is a war criminal who deserves to be tried and buried under the prison, just with right alongside Barack Obama and George W. Bush and John McCain and all the rest of them. Let me just say this real quick. Donald Trump should be in prison for war crimes for what he did to the people of Yemen. How's that for taking on the right? You're just defending your Democratic president. I actually stand on principle. Lockdowns and keeping Fauci on the job and Yemen and Israel and Iran, and there's just like government spending, and there's just a lot of them that it's like I just kind of can't forgive him for, but I think I might vote for Trump.
Yeah, Donald Trump looks, and man, I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one, but he should be impeached and removed for this one.
Go. Shout out to Milk Bar TV for that. Gray-headed libertarian says, don't blame me. I voted for Chase Oliver. That's right. I think a lot of these libertarians owe Chase Oliver an apology at this point. This is not our war. Keep it that way, he said last night. And he found this tweet. There's always a tweet. MAGA is going to morph into Bush 2.0 neocons now. This is Donald Trump in October of 2012 saying now that Obama's poll numbers are in a tailspin, which apparently they were not. He won a pretty convincing landslide victory a month later. Watch for him to launch a strike in Libya or Iran. He is desperate. Look, I think, everybody knows what I feel about, Dave Smith and the Mises Caucus libertarians pretty much abandoning almost all of what constitute libertarian principles in order to back what is clearly an authoritarian warmonger who is owned by a foreign power. But
it's always very heady to get on the winning side of a powerful force, a powerful coalition. That's what I felt at the Rescue the Republic thing. Everybody wants to feel like they're part of a winning team, a movement. You had obviously a lot of the libertarian Mises Caucus represented there with the sister event, Rage Against the War Machine. And yeah, man, it's a flaw in human nature that people have such a hard time resisting that, even against their common sense. Because you can see in those clips that you just showed, he knew better. He knew better.
Yeah.
So, stick to your principles. Dave Smith, look, we always, I understand a lot of people for whom COVID was the issue and it remains like the issue. Anybody who was against the way the government was handling that, which was Donald Trump's government, by the way.
Well, he said that in the clip. He
says,
said that.
He
there.
says that
yeah.
in the clip. But anyone who was ride or die with you at that time, there's this deep, deep emotional attachment to, and a lot of people have that with Dave Smith. I think he's a fucking clown. I have no idea why he has the prominence he has. I don't see any particular talent that he has. I don't see any particular insight that he has. And this is a perfect example of it. This is a clown who your buddy there explains that the one good thing Winston Churchill ever did in his life, which was to challenge Hitler, that's the bad thing about him. Not all the bad things, starving people in India, going after the Welsh miners, none of that. That's the bad thing, arguing that really, at that point, the war was over. He had the continent. Should have just left it alone. You created a lot of problems by challenging Hitler. And you're going to pump up this clown, just absolute clown, repeatedly and double down on backing this clown. I have no idea why anyone takes Dave Smith seriously. No idea. Yeah, man. I mean, it's to his credit, I guess, that he said something. It would be more to his credit if he wasn't a fucking clown who, knowing what he knew, as you can see in those clips, didn't turn around and say, you know what, man, I guess I can take that MAGA dick because I want to be on the side that's winning. And that feels better than being a principled libertarian. So you know what? I'm going to set aside everything I know about this guy and I'm going to get on the team that's winning.
Well, the other part of this, too, is that these Mises Caucus people, a lot of them, they are just Christian right Republicans with a punk rock sort of paint job. I mean, that's really what they are. And I think the obsession with the culture war just got so out of control that it blinded a lot of people to this. It just was so ridiculous and absurd, which is why I always think these issues are ridiculous and absurd. I don't think these issues have a place in national political discourse because national politics is for things like this, things like World War III, right? Things like Medicaid funding, which I understand libertarians, there's a kind of a philosophical difference there. So that's fine. But, Dave Smith just had a meltdown at Chase Oliver, who's a gay man who posted a porcupine pride flag. Just happened. Dave Smith is I should have included that in the segment, but I figured that would be a distraction because that's how my mind is oriented. Yeah, Chase Oliver's gay man, presidential nominee, tweets out a rainbow porcupine for Pride Month. I guess a porcupine is the libertarian symbol. I don't know. Maybe it's not a porcupine. It looks like a porcupine to me. Don't come at me if it's not. It looks like a porcupine to me, whatever it is.
A sex toy. It's a sex toy.
Yeah, exactly. And so Dave Smith tweets at Chase Oliver. He says, "Stop embarrassing libertarianism. Stop dragging down." I'm loosely paraphrasing here. Stop poisoning the libertarian brand with this embarrassing bullshit. And I tweeted the screenshot of Palantir building a database on every American. I says, real libertarians would find this to be embarrassing bullshit. Like, and this is the guy you voted for. Like, what should really be embarrassing bullshit to a libertarian is if they back a presidential candidate who then contracts Palantir $1 billion to build a database on every American. That's really an offense to libertarianism, not a pride flag during Pride Month. But look, there's a lot of money in culture war agitation. A lot of people were seduced by that. And the money and the influence go hand in hand. I'm not going to say he's a grifter. I'm saying with a large profile comes money, comes a larger profile, comes an inflated sense of influence, right? It's all kind of part of the same. I'm not suggesting Dave is out there counting dollars and saying shit he doesn't mean. But that got out of control. And I think everybody can look back at the Biden years and say that, yes, obviously the Democrats use those issues to agitate in place of an economic program, right? And to hide who they really are. And so that has the effect of baiting the other side into agitating on those issues. I think it's pretty obvious the other side, those who are well-meaning, who back Trump for those reasons, I think they way overemphasize those issues while blinding themselves to the very real dangers of empowering a fascist lunatic like Donald Trump, who is now increasing the surveillance state and ginning up the war machine. I think to run a campaign on men and women's sports in hindsight looks pretty fucking absurd.
Yeah, look, having been on the ground at the Rescue the Republic shit, I get it, man. I get it. It's very hard to be the principled opposition, right? The libertarians, they're basically the right-wing version of the Greens, right? Where you're taking this principled stand, can't really break more than a few percentage points in the vote. Okay, so then you get a presidential candidate who actually, whatever his other faults, is politically savvy enough that he recognizes how desperate these people are to feel like they're insiders instead of outsiders, who's savvy enough to realize all outsiders actually want to be inside the tent. And if you signal to them that you're going to get a seat at the table, all those principles they have, they'll chuck them right out the window. They'll justify it to themselves. Hey, man, look at all these famous people up on stage, and now I'm a part of that, and I'm literally in the tent. There's literally a tent backstage where you have these famous figures from MAGA world interacting with these libertarians. Hey, man, it's very heady. It's very tempting. That's the difference between somebody who's really principled and thinking things through and somebody who maybe should not be given such a big platform, given their appalling lack of judgment, maybe.
Yeah. Like during the campaign, we were at the Worker Strike Back event with the Greens in Chicago. There was no tent there. There was no red carpet there. No VIP section.
There was no big bulletproof glass thing to give your speeches.
No lights and speakers there, right? But, that is where we felt we should be.
I'm sorry, man. You see fucking Jordan Two-Face and fucking Russell the Joker Brand over there reading the Lord's Prayer. You don't know that tent is actually a fucking a carnival tent? You don't realize this is Barnum and Bailey's fucking circus?
Right.
You want to be a part of that? Come on, man.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No. So, that's that. But that is just another sign, one more sign in just the implosion of this coalition. And I mean, it is good that he said he should be impeached and removed because there's no real walking that back, and he should be. He should be. This is, like I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but I have to get this in every clip because we dropped these separately. If you are politically conscious and old enough to have been politically conscious for 20 years, this is the day you feared would come.
Yes.
And the Trump movement was largely seen as the bulwark against that. Well, for every other crazy fucking thing this guy's going to do, at least he's not going to do this, which is the one redeeming quality of this movement. And now, I mean, 5 months in, you are at doomsday. On top of all the other shit, on top of CCOT, on top of gutting of the social safety, on top of everything else, he's doing the one thing that every politically awake person has been dreading for 20 years. There's no coming back from it. You cannot overstate how devastating this is. And he sees it. He sees it. So good for him, I guess. Zoran Vasilic rooting for Zoran Mamdani in the New York City mayoral elections because we have the same name without the letter H in the middle. Best of luck. That's our next segment, actually. We got a New York mayor's update. Zoran Vasilic says, am I crazy to think that Israel is a proxy state of the collective West, U.S., and that ordinary Jews did not want their own state? Free Palestine.
Well, no, they didn't historically.
That's actually correct.
Yeah, no, the Zionists were considered crackpots by most Jews, and the Reform Temple did not recognize Israel until I think the 90s, like the mid 90s.
Yeah, that is true. And the fact that Israel's a proxy state of ours, yes, that's obviously true. Free men die free. Thanks for the $5. As a libertarian, Trump Israel severely underestimate how many permanent enemies they've created inside the U.S. Also, taxation is theft, lefties. Thank you, free men die free. Appreciate that. Rain Burrows, thanks for the $9.99. 1 out of 3 liking pretty damn good. Oh, yeah, that's right. We have some business to take care of. Thank you for reminding me of that. We are well past 666 likes. And we are at 3,900 strong in the YouTube chat, just blowing it out. So, folks, make sure you slam that subscribe button if this is your first time here. Smash that follow button over on Rumble, getting a nice crowd filing in over there, too, as well. 1,300 strong in the Rumble chat. Big crowd today. Pardon me. Well over 5,000 between YouTube and Rumble, coming up on 6,000. Between all the platforms plus X. So let's smash that like button. Let's see if we can get our 6666. We're still a little ways away, but it could happen. Rain Burrow says 1 out of 3 liking is pretty damn good. I watched YouTube for years before I used the like feature. Love your analysis. I really love it. Thank you. Thank you, Rain Burrows. Appreciate that. Yeah, the like feature is good for the algo. Got to juice the algo. Let's see here. What do we got? All right. Crystal Waters say, happy to report. Good MAGA, Hodge twins, Tucker, Lady MAGA, Candace, Tim Dillon, Dave Smith are revolting. We're taking our America first and going home. Well, that's good. I mean, look, yes, obviously.
Yeah.
But, and then the question is, what happens? And this is a question we asked ourselves. What's going to happen when Trump disappoints? Because this is, like I said, I don't want to repeat myself, but there's no excusing this. There's no coming back from this. Eric Rousseau, prison labor has been already replacing immigrants' labor, fast food, agriculture, meat pack. Well, that's the other thing.
Yep.
That's the other point.
We covered that.
Yep. The biggest threat to national security is the national security itself. Security, safety, and stability makes it harder to exploit the masses. Thank you. You'd think this would be the empathetic moment between people complaining about illegal invaders into America and Palestinians when Israel invaded in 1948. Yeah, no, well, of course. And that's why, I mean, look, Bannon and Tucker, like, their whole, I mean, especially Bannon, the number one job is to get rid of the invaders. I mean, it's fucking absurd. It's absurd. But he has the political instinct to know that you could run on that and win on that, which Trump did. And he also knows how poisonous this war with Iran shit is. Yeah. So the fact that they're being as loud about this as they can and that Trump is just shoving them aside, that just shows you something is rotten in Denmark, my friends. Maybe Israel is right. The sun is not going supernova for another 4 billion years. Plenty of time for life again. Thank you. Free shit. If Kamala won, I could be having brunch right now knowing that Iran is getting women's rights. Yeah. And there we go. Yes, good one. Good one. I like that one.
I got to start showing up to these Libby protests with signs like that.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes. That would be good. We could sell buttons, see how many people buy them, just film them, see what they pick out.
Just really confuse people. Are they making fun of us? Or
are they?
Do they mean that?
Just act very sincere. The reason Bannon can't see Israel's fault is because all the rapture-type Christian followers they have who have the crazy mythology about Israel's role in end of days. Yeah, if there is some audience capture there, that's certainly it. Yes, that's a good
Yeah.
observation
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. EO Shush, when I hear anti-war MAGA, don't get me wrong. I love Daddy, and he is the best daddy in the world, but he promised to take us to Disneyland, but Uncle Netanyahu tricked him into not taking us. That's right.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's move on.
Yeah,
to...
they tried to grab that fig leaf, but he didn't permit it to them because
Right.
Trump immediately went and backed that place, so they
Right.
couldn't even do that. Oh, it was Netanyahu who tricked him.
No, his hands are tied. You could tell his hands are tied. The fact that he hasn't made a formal address about this, the fact that he hasn't taken questions about this, he makes himself available to the press and to the public in ways that very few presidents do. I mean, he's on camera
Yes.
constantly.
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah,
fact
yeah.
that you really haven't seen
Well,
anything
and also
from him
when
this
you
past
do
week,
see him, he seems very joyless.
yeah, he seems
Right?
very
Even
joyless.
even that Tulsi thing, that Tucker thing, he seems very drained.
Yep, because he knows this is bad. He knows this is
Yep.
very bad, and he knows he has no choice. And so you notice he's putting in as little FaceTime with the public as he can, which is very
Yep.
unlike him, obviously.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, let's move right along here. We got some New York politics to talk. Primary day is 1 day from today in New York City. Getting pretty interesting.
All right, Mamdani has been picking up a lot of cross endorsements. We have ranked choice voting here. So him and Brad Lander have cross endorsed each other. Michael Blake, who I thought had the best takedown of Trump at the first debate, saying the real threat to the women, girls, and grandmothers of New York are Andrew Cuomo.
Yeah.
He has endorsed Mamdani, cross endorsed him. And AOC, of course, endorsed him and had a rally with him Saturday night. And now Bernie Sanders has endorsed him. We need a new politics and a new leadership, which is prepared to stand up to powerful corporate interests and fight for the working class. I'm sure you're familiar with Bernie's shtick. We don't really have to read through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you know who's not endorsing Mamdani? New York's newspapers. See, it's a big club and you ain't in it, folks. You think the New York Post is different from the left-wing New York Times? Not when it comes to shit like this. Not when it comes to things like this. New York Post. Keep menace Zora Mamdani completely off your NYC ballot in the Democratic mayoral primary. Remember, because it's ranked choice, it changes the calculus. If he shows up on enough ballots, even if he's not your number one rank, he could wind up winning in the counting. So don't rank him, they're saying. AM New York. Okay, this is very widely read because it's just a free paper that they give out. Usually the kiosks are right outside the subway entrances. So everyone in the morning just grabs one. Mamdani's Israel Holocaust resolution refusal show he's unfit to lead NYC. The Queens Chronicle, that's a rag out in Queens. There are actually a lot of large Jewish sections out that way, like Forest Hills. I'm sure that's who they're catering to with this. Editorial, we make no endorsement in the Democratic mayoral primary, but we make an anti-endorsement. This city cannot have an anti-Semitic socialist at the helm. Vote anyone but Mamdani. Now, of course, needless to say, by anti-Semitic, they mean anti-Zionist, which is usually what these folks mean. He is a supporter of BDS. As mayor, he has said he would divest from Israel. That's what they mean by anti-Semitic. And he had the temerity to say, as the mayor of New York, he did not feel compelled to go to Israel as his first trip as mayor. How dare he? So from the Cracker Jack editorial team that brought you the joint endorsement of Amy Klobuchar and Elizabeth Warren in 2020, wow, that really shook up the race, huh? That really changed the trajectory. Now, so a year ago, the New York Times announced a new policy of not endorsing. So they tacitly endorse Andrew Cuomo without openly endorsing him. But really, the intention of this piece is to attack Zoran Mamdani. So I just want to take on a few of the things they say here, because it really is quite a window into the establishment. And it's as good an explanation for why Donald Trump, in spite of all his flaws, is the president of the United States here, because they didn't learn a damn thing from that. Okay, so they attack progressive politics for a while first. They attack de Blasio for a while, and then they propose what their alternative to a progressive vision of governance would be. A more promising approach to city leadership is certainly not a local version of the current Republican agenda, which slashes valuable government programs, opposes accountability for police departments, and disdains some basic civil rights. The answer instead is a more effective and thoughtful liberal governance in which city leaders use empirical evidence and effective management to achieve results. At his best, Michael Bloomberg, New York's mayor from 2002 to 2013, used this approach. I have to thank them for giving away the game so openly and so early in the article. So you want accountability for police departments, but your idea of the ideal mayor is Mayor Stop and Frisk. That's the guy
Right.
you think did a very good job and didn't govern like Republicans did. He didn't govern like them. And yet I saw in my own neighborhood, I've lived in Harlem since 2007. I saw people I knew in the neighborhood, working guys, no, not criminals, getting thrown up against the wall. And you know what? It never happened to me. I wonder why. This is a very famous quote from Michael Bloomberg. If New York City is a business, it isn't Walmart. It isn't trying to be the lowest priced product in the market, he explained at an economic conference in 2003. It's a high-end product, maybe even a luxury product. So this is who the New York Times is telling you is a paragon of good governance. Michael Bloomberg, who felt that New York City should really not be affordable to working people. He openly said that he wants more billionaires to come into New York City. So how did things go for working people under Michael Bloomberg? During the Bloomberg administration, New York City witnessed a significant increase in median apartment rents. From 2000 to 2012, median rents rose by 75% compared to 44% in the rest of the U.S. This occurred alongside a decline in the real incomes of New Yorkers. This situation led to a deepening housing affordability crunch for renters, particularly those at the lower end of the income spectrum. The New York Times editorial board should really read the New York Times before they write these articles.
Right.
This is from the New York Times 2019. As Bloomberg's New York prospered, inequality flourished too. The number of residents in homeless shelters grew to 50,000 a night from less than 30,000. New York's growth and prosperity seen at Atlantic Yard's Barclays Center in Greenpoint in Long Island City appeared inseparable from the rising affordability crisis. Quote, it also sparked waves of gentrification and waves of displacement and the remaking of many different neighborhoods, said Emily Goldstein, Director of Organizing and Advocacy at the Association for Neighborhood and Housing Development. Mr. Bloomberg dedicated barely any city funding to the public housing agency compared with the current mayor. At the time that this was written, the mayor was de Blasio. And the backlog of requests that tenants submitted for apartment repairs ballooned to record highs as residents dealt with leaks and hazardous mold. The city also stopped checking for lead paint in public housing apartments during Mr. Bloomberg's tenure, a decision that endangered the health of tens of thousands of young children. That is the mayor that the New York Times is telling you was a paragon of liberal, evidence-based governance.
Yep.
Now, on Mr. Mamdani. Unfortunately, Mr. Mamdani is running on an agenda uniquely unsuited to the city's challenges. He is a democratic socialist who too often ignores the unavoidable trade-offs of governance. He favors rent freezes that could restrict housing supply and make it harder for younger New Yorkers
rent
and
freeze.
new arrivals to afford housing. That one is, we'll get into it.
Rent
He
freezing makes it harder for young people to afford housing.
Yeah, no, of course. When you stop the rents from going up, that's actually what makes it unaffordable.
Right.
He wants the government to operate grocery stores as if customer service and retail sales were strengths of the public sector. He minimizes the importance of policing. Okay, so just okay, so basically they're trying to say, well, if you do a rent freeze, that's going to stop development, and so that's going to increase rents. Okay, so where are we at now under the current regime? Manhattan median rent climbed to $4,571 in May, hitting a record for the third time. Well, you know what we really don't want? We don't want anyone to mess with the system because it's working so well to make New York affordable for young
That's
people.
almost 60 grand a year in rent.
And new arrivals. Yeah, no, we don't want to mess with that. Now, of course, Mamdani does have proposals for using, I can tell you, living in New York, you have vacant lots that are owned by the city all over New York. What Mamdani's solution would be is a socialist solution where the city develops affordable housing and takes it completely out of the commercial realm. Now, you can argue for the commercial approach if it didn't lead to this result. Are you saying that's not what we've been doing?
Right.
We have not been giving developers a free hand. So where has that gotten us? Here. The idea, the absurdity of saying don't freeze rent because it's going to make the city less affordable. It's mind-boggling they would say such a thing. Now, of course, Cuomo, who they tacitly endorse in this article, quite beloved by the real estate industry. Almost 30% of the money going into his super PAC Fix the City is coming from the real estate industry. I'm sure that a corrupt politician like Cuomo being financed by the real estate industry is going to lead to a much better outcome for New York City's large tenant population, unusually large for America, with a base of real estate developers financing him. Okay, so in terms of what they say about the city running grocery stores, again, this is a New York City newspaper. You should know the first fucking thing about the city you live in if you're going to write for it and say things like that. That is the Essex Street Market. The Essex Street Market was founded by Fiorello LaGuardia as part of a series of markets, city-owned markets, that were established because he wanted to get push carts off the street in order to make New York City more accessible to automobiles. The only reason Essex Street Market survived is because it was city-owned. Back when the Essex Street Market was set up, this is when people would go to the fruit seller for fruit. They'd go to the meat seller for meat, the fish seller for fish, right? Supermarkets basically wiped out that whole concept. If it had really been a commercially owned thing, there'd be no Essex Street Market. Because it was city owned and because it did fill a need in the community, the city kept it going. This is the difference between a capitalist vision and a socialist vision. Essex Street Market is a socialist vision of an economy in a small way. The market opened in 1940, replacing an outdoor market that had operated since the 19th century. During the late 20th century, Essex Street Market began to see a decrease in customers as supermarkets became increasingly popular. The market was turned over from the city to the individual vendors in 1966 and was taken over by the New York City Economic Development Corporation in 1995. As part of the Essex Crossing redevelopment project that commenced in 2013, Essex Street Market moved to a new location in 2019 and was rebranded Essex Market. Okay, so it is run by the New York City Economic Development Corporation. Doesn't mean they run all the stalls and presumably the kinds of markets that Mamdani's talking about. We already subsidize supermarkets, by the way. What he's proposing would cost less. According to his figures, we spend $150 million subsidizing commercial supermarkets. So he would make it city markets, and he's saying that would bring down the cost to $60 million. I can't speak to whether his figures are correct, but that's what he's proposing. The idea that this categorically would not work because it's run by the city, well, look at the new Essex Market. Looks like it's doing pretty well. Looks like it's doing pretty well. That's the old one, and this is the new one. So, yes, in theory, this can certainly be done. And as a New York City fucking editorial board, maybe you should be aware of the example of the Essex Market before you so disdainfully dismiss the idea of the city owning that kind of an enterprise. Moving along. Andrew Cuomo. I agree with the New York Times. Experience matters. This is not the time to learn on the job. And he quotes them. Mr. Cuomo has the strongest policy record of the candidates. His list of accomplishments includes paid family leave, expanded health insurance, a higher minimum wage, a marriage equality law, a strict gun control law, an ambitious clean energy program, and so on. It's pretty fucking amazing that they would say expanded health insurance. So y'all remember New York had morgue trucks sitting out in Central Park, right? And our hospitals were overwhelmed. Now, that was partly because we did get hit very hard with COVID. It was also because of Andrew Cuomo. Cuomo helped get New York into this mess. Far from expanding healthcare, Cuomo cut Medicaid during COVID. During COVID. With the state budget, remember, this article is from March 2020. This is the height of COVID. This article was written. With the state budget for the next fiscal year due on April 1st, Cuomo is proposing to gut Medicaid by $400 million, part of $2.5 billion in cuts he's seeking over several years. So determined is Cuomo to slash Medicaid spending that he's prepared to reject more than $6 billion in matching federal aid approved earlier this month because it would force him to alter his austerity strategy. What's more, this is later in the article. What's more, the state has lost more than 20,000 hospital beds over the last 20 years. Cuomo, who has governed for almost half that period, never advocated for any kind of expansion of hospital beds until last month. He now says New York needs 110,000 beds, more than double the current capacity. He has never been a forceful advocate for keeping hospitals open. In fact, he's empowered bureaucrats who have argued aggressively to shutter them. Okay, so tens of thousands of hospital beds were lost under Andrew Cuomo, who did not fight to keep them. And even during COVID, he was still fighting to cut Medicaid to the point he didn't want to take the federal funding because it would interfere with his plans for cutting Medicaid. This is the person the New York Times is telling you one of his accomplishments is expanding healthcare. Okay. Matt Stoller, good find here from Matt Stoller. New York Times, June 16th, 2025. Mamdani lacks the, quote, instinct for compromise that has made Bernie Sanders, his fellow Democratic socialist, effective. New York Times, January 19th, 2020, quote, compromise is anathema to Sanders. Only his prescriptions are the right ones, even though most are rigid, untested, and divisive. You see, when they needed to attack Bernie Sanders, he doesn't compromise. Now they need to attack Mamdani. See, it's not that we're against progressives. We love Bernie. David Sirota commented on this. At first, I laughed, but this actually isn't funny. The New York Times constantly depicted Bernie as recklessly doctrinaire and unserious, greenlighting the rest of the media to do the same, which helped tank his candidacies. Now these same New York Times elites are telling a whole different story, not to try to apologize for wrongly misrepresenting Bernie, but to try to crush a new Bernie-esque candidate. For all its use of the voice of God to try to pretend to be objective and above ideology, the New York Times has a very real, very extreme, and very nasty ideology, and their editorialists are willing to twist themselves into knots to enforce it. That's what's on display here. You know, actually, these people are so clueless and so out of touch. When they did their brilliant endorsement of Klobuchar and Warren, they put out an hour that showed the conversation and the process and the deliberation. And yeah, they talked about how Bernie is another form of Trump, you know, I mean, which was a very typical establishment take. Aaron Gittleman, disappointing but not shocking to see the New York Times hold the same opinion as the New York Post and beg its readers not to vote for Zohran Mamdani. The out-of-touch establishment is scared and confused, but that won't stop real New Yorkers from fighting for a more affordable city. Well, the question is, do the real New Yorkers outweigh the old mummies from the Upper West Side, who I'm sure are going to vote for Cuomo? Joe wrote, within 2 paragraphs, the New York Times editorial board says Zohran Mamdani, a thrice elected assemblyman, doesn't have the experience to be mayor, and suggests voters choose Whitney Tilson, who has never held elected office. It's almost like they have an ulterior motive. Let's see what they said. We see arguments for ranking several candidates at the top of the ballot, including Mr. Lander for more progressive voters and Mr. Tilson for more moderate voters. Okay, so let's see what the New York Times' idea of a moderate, this is very much like Bloomberg, a businessman who's never held office. Let's see what their idea of a moderate is.
Very personal to me. My wife and 3 daughters are Jewish. We've been members of Central Synagogue for 25 years, and I've been horrified by the explosion of anti-Semitism. It makes all of us feel unsafe. I think a big chunk of Jews feeling unsafe is the mobs that have been incited on our college campuses and in our streets. There is someone on this stage with me who has been a primary inciter of these mobs over his entire life, who won't visit Israel, who refuses to acknowledge Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state, who has accused Israel of genocide, who is a leader of the movement to divest from Israel, and I think that needs to be made clear.
That's the New York Times' moderate candidate for your approval. San Francisco Chronicle pitchbot. Editorial board warns if Mamdani wins in NYC, Bay Area renters might start getting ideas. In these trying times, we must stand with Cuomo before tenant protections go viral. Exactly. Justin Allen. The New York Times telling progressives not to rank Zohran Mamdani is the best gift that editorial board has given this city in a long time. I would like to agree with you. I do, in the sense that I don't know that anyone who takes the New York Times editorial board seriously was voting for Mamdani in the first place. I will say that. And here, if you look at the map, worst of all, the New York Times pretends that it somehow knows and cares more about the needs of the working class than Mamdani and his supporters do. Look at all the green on this map. The Rockaways, Fordham Road, Middle Village, Inwood, Bay Ridge, all elite progressives. Look at all the green on that map. And for those of you who are not familiar with the city, so the island on the left there is Manhattan. If you look to the north of that, that's the Bronx, including the poorest district in the country there in the South Bronx, all green. This is where Mamdani's donations are coming from. Lydia Kiesling, everyone, don't rank Cuomo a serial groping, disgraced grandmother killer. New York Times, don't rank Mamdani a visionary young man. Yes. New York Times education pitch bot. It must be noted and harshly judged that Zoran Mamdani's favorite pizza place is not in Israel.
Yes.
How dare he? How dare he? So, hey, we have said we have broken our custom here. We have both endorsed Mamdani. Yeah, we're not going to go so far given our belief about the Democratic Party and its nature. So tell people to donate or tell people to go volunteer. But hey, man, if you're a New York voter, yes, definitely do not rank Andrew Cuomo and rank Zoran Mamdani first. He has all the right enemies. Because of the peculiar nature of this particular race, because Andrew Cuomo is such an odious pig that even the papers that are saying don't rank Mamdani cannot bring themselves to endorse Cuomo. None of them are full-throatedly saying vote for Andrew Cuomo. Like, no one can bring themselves to say that. Because of that, and because of the unusual demographics of New York City, which tends to skew younger, because just the nature of it, it's very hard to raise a family here unless you're very rich. So it does tend to skew on the younger side. It's possible. It's possible. I mean, I'll do my part. I'll vote for him. That's as far as I'm going in a Democratic primary. But you can really see in that editorial from the New York Times, that is the voice of the Democratic Party, man. That is the core of the Democratic Party. Now, the question is, are those old mummies that make up their primary voting base in New York, these rich old cunts from the Upper East Side, are they going to vote in enough numbers for Andrew Cuomo, the grandmother killer, to push him over the top? It's an open race. It's hard to predict.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is just indicative of, what snot-nosed pseudo-intellectual, phonies the New York Times are.
They care so much about women. They care so much about people of color.
Well, not
and
just
they
that,
hold
the
up
whole
Bloomberg
rewriting.
and Rahm Emanuel was another mayor they cited as an ideal for how to govern cities.
Yeah, and I mean, look, not just that, the whole rewriting of the, history of, recent New York politics with, Cuomo and Bloomberg, and obviously the elevation of Tilson there over Mamdani, even though Mamdani has more experience than he has in office. Yeah, I mean, it's just very, very typical of, a paper whose core readership thinks they're much, much smarter than they actually are. That's really what that comes down to. In terms of the ranked choice, this is the other thing about ranked choice voting. This is the other thing that I think plays to Mamdani's favor. Ranked choice voting tends to favor the less polarizing candidates because you're only going to rank someone second if you neither love nor hate them, right? If you love them, you're going to rank them first. If you hate them, you're not going to rank them at all, right? So, there are probably a lot of people out there who like Mamdani but are going to go for one of the milder candidates like the Lander or something first. And then when Lander gets knocked out, Mamdani benefits because he's ranked second on the ballot. When you're as polarizing as Cuomo, you get a lot of people who don't rank you at all, which means you're not picking up as many, nearly as many.
It's a good point.
On those second and third rounds, which means if it stays close enough for long enough, depending on who ranks last, there's a lot of randomness to this too, because a lot of it depends on who ranks last, right? Does one of the more Cuomo-aligned centrists come in at 3% and one of the more lefty candidates get 4%? Well, that favors Cuomo because now the centrist is knocked out first, which means Cuomo is more likely to come in second on the next round. Yeah, this is the problem with ranked choice voting. It creates a lot of chance and luck and randomness in the process, and it does tend to favor more milquetoast candidates who are neither loved nor hated, which tend to be the less radical ones, which tend to be the more centrist ones. In this case, though, it is a bit of a unique situation where the centrist in the race, Cuomo, is also the most polarizing. He's also the most reviled, which means he's the least likely to be ranked number 2.
And also
on a lot of ballots.
Mamdani has no real competition in his lane.
Right.
Everybody else is pretty establishment, and the one that could plausibly be considered somewhat more progressive, Lander, cross-endorsed him.
Right. Exactly. So that is in 1 week from today, the 24th of June. We will be on that. We might do an evening stream for that. I think that will be fun.
Yeah.
All right. Kids Corner says peace through strength is the trickle-down economics of foreign policy. Attack first, ask questions later, as all these bloodthirsty monsters operate on, like how they train cops. Thank you, Kids Corner. Picks with kitties may not be the only incentive, says IXM. Wasn't the golden pager a veiled death threat? I don't think they would gesture that in public. I think those kinds of things they would do in private. But no, they definitely own him. Who would have thought people with the mindset that gave sanctuary to a donkey over military interpreters would turn on each other? Caligula was more in touch. China Shell says, I got to agree with Michael Tracy. I didn't vote for this shit rings hollow, and they constantly antagonized Iran during the campaign and said they tried to kill him. You did vote for this. Yeah, no, of course they did. Thank you, China Shell. Nocturnal Human, Donald Lame Duck is plucked. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Thank you. I didn't vote for anyone in The Last Dance, says Melee. Nobody can blame me for anything. Thank you. Kids Corner, peace through strength is the trickle-down economics of foreign policy. Attack first, ask questions later. Oh, got that one already. Oh, okay, I know what I did. That's why I had so many of these. I knew I screwed up here. Okay, that one is done. That one is done. Okay, here we go. Professor Brown note. In this slow news week, art question. What does Russ think about the new retro NYC subway map on a scale of chef's kiss to English sausage pizza? Is there a new subway map?
I heard something about that. I haven't seen it though.
Okay, so you got to wait till next time. Turns out Trump was Russian roulette with 7 bullets. Got to have one to bite on with the president. Thank you, Stoop Sign. Get up, King. So what you guys are saying is we all have to take responsibility and blame Carlson, Bond, Smith, and Rogan. Got it. Thank you. WVP, it's Vito. Wouldn't it have been great to fly on presidential bedroom wall Saturday after that miserable parade? Great show. Cancer sucks. You guys rock. Yes.
Thank you.
Indeed, Vito. Thank you for that very much. Brad Gilbert says John Cullen shows the first shot at Butler. Fake AF. Thank you, Brad. Because that's was saying.
Who is that?
John Cullen. I don't know who John Cullen is. Another great freaking show, DD. Thank you, Kuznetsky Bassane. Appreciate that. Tamara Lynn says, well, now we know why each administration was funding and Israel and why Hamas attacked in October. This was the plan all along at Iran. I agree. Hisham Mazabi, thanks for the 1999. Appreciate that super sticker. Thank you very much. Over the Top says, Russell, Dave is a clown for voting for Trump. You voted for Sanders as a cowbell liberal, so break bread with the folks we can agree with. Coalition.
That's that. I'm sorry, that's not comparable.
Yeah, that's not comparable. Of course, it's not comparable. Obviously. Macho X3 says division and insults during a time the whole country should come together as a we the people is not what you should be doing. We have treason in D.C. Enjoy your $5. Right.
Hey, man, you know what? Yes, in the end, I agree with you. At the same time, I've always seen our job is to be honest and forthright, and we're going to tell you what we think, including of other personalities in the space. And hey, you want to talk about that on a bigger level? We got into it a little bit the other day, not too much, I think, because we wanted to support the No Kings thing, but we did touch a little bit on the drawbacks of the liberals. Yeah, man. I mean, the result of that march being very Democrat and liberal driven, shouldn't see any out of Gaza signs, right? Because you don't want to piss off the Zionists. You don't want to piss off the libs. And that is a problem if you're talking about going forward and building a real anti-Trump, a meaningful anti-Trump coalition. How are you going to work with these Democrats who are fucking Zionists? How are you going to work with these libs? So you're right. You're right. At the same time, you know, we got to tell you the truth about what we think. We're not gonna sit here and come on and be like, yeah, no, we better not tell them we think that. I mean, you know, for that you can have lunch with your uncle, right?
There you go. All right. Moving right on along here, folks. All right. So we are going to talk more about the unfolding developments vis-a-vis the war in Iran. So you ever think Tim Kaine would be the white knights that would come to the country's rescue? I bet you didn't have that on your bingo card this year.
Yeah, right.
Antiwar.com, Dave DeCamp, friend of the show, writes, Senator Tim Kaine introduces war powers resolution to prevent war with Iran. Contact your senator and tell them to support Kaine's effort. So Dave writes, Senator Tim Kaine on Monday introduced a war powers resolution that would require a debate and a vote in Congress before the U.S. enters Israel's war against Iran with offensive support. It is not in our national security interest to get into a war with Iran unless that war is absolutely necessary to defend the United States. I am deeply concerned that the recent escalation of hostilities between Israel and Iran could quickly pull the United States into another endless conflict, Kaine said. The American people have no interest in sending service members to fight another forever war in the Middle East. This resolution will ensure that if we decide to place our nation's men and women in uniform into harm's way, we will have a debate and vote on it in Congress, the Virginia senator added. A similar effort will be launched in the House as Representative Thomas Massie announced that he would be introducing his own resolution on Tuesday. That's today. This is not our war, but if it were, Congress must decide such matters according to our Constitution, Massie wrote on X. I'm introducing a bipartisan war powers resolution tomorrow to prohibit our involvement. I invite all members of Congress to co-sponsor this resolution. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has also been strongly critical of the U.S. support for Israel's war. Anyone slobbering for the U.S. to become fully involved in the Israel-Iran war is not America First or MAGA, she wrote on X on Sunday. Wishing for murder of innocent people is disgusting. We are sick and tired of foreign wars. All of them. So, Tim Kaine did introduce this war powers resolution, made that official, of course. A similar House effort is expected soon. Here is the tweet that Dave Smith was referring to, Thomas Massie. I invite all members of Congress to co-sponsor this resolution. AOC and Ilhan Omar both tweeted in the replies that they were in fact taking him up on that invitation. And today, just before we went on air, Thomas Massie formally introduced the Iran War Powers Resolution with Representative Ro Khanna to prohibit U.S. involvement in the Israel-Iran war. This is not our war. Even if it were, Congress must decide such matters according to our Constitution. He also thanked the original co-sponsors of the War Powers Resolution. All the names on that list are Democrats, which made the heads hurt of some of his constituents here. Look at who is joining you in this nonsense attempt to take over power of military authority from the CIC. Tells you all you need to know. This is a massive overstep of the legislative. Representative Aaron Bean, I don't think so, Congressman. This is not happening. So I guess he's lobbying his congressman not to join the effort. Marjorie Taylor Greene's name was absent from that. So Cassandra McDonald here tweets at her, get on this, Representative MTG. And Liz Elkins, who is a Fox News reporter, tweeted out, Marjorie Taylor Greene tells me she's not backing bipartisan Massie Israel-Iran resolution for now. While I'm opposed to U.S. involvement in foreign wars and regime change, I do not see a need to sign on to Representative Massie's War Powers resolution yet, as we are not attacking Iran.
Well, that's kind of the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the whole point. So that is quite a ridiculous excuse. So for all of her talk, she doesn't want to get on the wrong side of Donald Trump in that way. And this is the biggest problem with the Republicans, is that he is still seen as carrying a big stick, even though this is so profoundly unpopular. Now, on the Democrat side...
She's afraid of getting hit by the Jewish space lasers.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. Now, on the Democrat side, you could see David Hogg, why he is not going to be vice chair of the DNC. This is how you get kicked out. Any Democrat who supports this war with Iran needs to be primaried. Our generation grew up going through two multi-trillion-dollar wars we should have never been involved in. We are not fucking going back to that. If you think this is a good idea, read a history book. And as we mentioned in an earlier segment, the latest YouGov polling on this.
Look at this shit. They're radicalizing David Hogg.
That's right. That's right. shows overwhelming rejection of U.S. involvement in Iran. Only 16% in favor of the U.S. military getting involved in the conflict between Iran and Israel. 60% say no. Amongst Democrats, 10% yes, 71 no. Among Trump supporters, 19 yes, 53 no, with the 28% being the fence sitters. And this is why it is important for people like Tucker and like Bannon and even guys like Dave Smith, who are not necessarily in the Republican lane, but they were Trump voters in 2024. There are still a decent number of Trump voters who are kind of being mum on this and holding out hope, and they're answering, no, we're not sure. No, you have to say no. This is what I got into on a few different occasions in Sunday's show and again on Jimmy's show last night. Like, this is not a time to wait and see and trust the process. No. This is not trust the plan time. This is absolutely no war with Iran, because the favorability numbers for intervention are, of course, very weak, but that number of those who are unsure, still a bit too high. There's no excuse to be unsure. You have to say no. And yes, to David Hogg's point, anyone, Democrat, Republican, whoever, he's a Democrat, so he's speaking for his side of things, anyone who supports this war needs to be voted out of office. They need to be voted out. That means voting for the other major party if you have to.
Yeah.
Like, they have to be removed from office. Not in a third-party vote. No, you have to aggressively vote to remove anyone who votes for this from office. That means if they're a Democrat, you vote for their Republican opponent. If they're a Republican and they vote for this, you vote for their Democratic opponent. This is how severe this is at this point. You absolutely have to make crystal clear that championing war with Iran means the end of your political career. Period. No room for gray area on that at all. Except for where Shama's running. Got to vote for Shama. But that's the only exception. All right.
There you go.
So that's it. But that is how severe this is. Gen X girl, tell your senators to vote yes. Invokes war powers resolution forcing removal of all unauthorized U.S. military involvement in Israel's war against Iran. Force these bribed lawmakers to vote yes on this bill or lose their reelection. Yes. The goal of doing that is not because you want to vote against them or for their opponent, but you just have to make the stakes existential. You have to make the stakes existential, because this is an existential situation. And the public is against this war. Only 16% are in favor of this. So, yes, call your senators, 202-224-3121. I guess that gets you to the switchboard and make your voice heard. You know, I said on Sunday's show that this was an emergency. This is an emergency that if you were politically awake for the last 20 years, you saw coming and you feared that this day would come, and now it is here, and we have to do whatever we can with whoever we have to do it with to get it stopped, whether that's coalition building with AOC or Thomas Massie or Marjorie Taylor Greene or whoever. This has to get done. It has to get done. We have to pull back from this, because this will be much worse than the Iraq War, which was a disaster. Was a disaster. Economic life will become unlivable for so many people if this happens.
Oh, that's
physically, it will be extraordinarily dangerous. The risk of a humanity-ending event will be very, very high throughout this. On every possible front, this will be a nightmare, a full-blown nightmare, and we're as close as we've ever been to it. And so, yes, we got to get these bills passed. Call your senator, call your congressman, tell them they have to vote yes on this, or you're voting against them in 2026, period.
Well, this is the culmination of all the erosion of the separation of powers, of all the erosion of civil liberties that have been accelerating since 9/11. This is what everybody has been warning about when the Democrats kept reauthorizing the Patriot Act, ignoring unilateral exercise of military power. There's a game The executive branch has been playing with Congress for a long time. They take actions militarily that are supposed to require the authorization of Congress, and Congress pretends these are not military actions that they need to authorize. And now here we are, man.
Right.
Now here we are. This has just become standard operating procedure for the executive to just go start wars with countries and call them actions.
Yep.
Support.
Exactly.
We're
Yep.
just supporting. We're not at war. And Congress has abdicated its responsibility. That combined with the fact that anyone who was paying any attention, going all the way back to when they first authorized the Patriot Act, said all it's going to take is going to be an emergency combined with an executive that is willing to take the implications of the provisions of the Patriot Act to their logical conclusion of calling dissenters terrorists and locking them up without charge. And if we go to war with Iran, you're going to see that.
Yeah, and to your point, a lot of the legislators have used that precedent of deference to the executive to shirk their responsibility as representatives of their people. And that's why it's so important to tell them they have to vote yes on this, because it's not acceptable to simply pass the buck and say, well, that's an executive decision that's outside of my purview. No, it's not. According to the Constitution, it's not. You have an obligation to fulfill your constitutional duty by voting yes or no on matters of war and peace. And if you decide, you know what, I'm just going to punt on that, that kind of negligence at this moment cannot be tolerated. You have to be voted out.
That's how we got here.
In that respect, yes. That's how we got here. That's how we got here. And this is the final boss of these people. This is what they have wanted to do for decades. And the reason Iran is last on the list is because it's the worst one. It's the worst. It's the hardest one, which means it's going to be the most costly in terms of resources, in terms of human life, in terms of just global stability.
We weren't even. I was watching Jeffrey Sachs today and Glenn Dyson, and he made the point. America has not won a war in decades.
Yep.
We didn't win in Iraq. What makes you think we can win a war with Iran?
Right. Well, and
we didn't win in Afghanistan. We're there for 25 years?
Yeah. Yeah, well, this is, again, what makes this so especially dangerous is you got Huckabee chirping in Trump's ear that it's Truman 1945 because the last war we won, how did we win it? We win it by exercising that option, right? And so this is why there's just no room for error and there's no room for compromise. So, yes, please do call that number. I'll put it on. This is the Senate switchboard. There's a House switchboard. You can find it, I assume, on house.gov. But yes, give your elected official a call and tell them they have to vote yes on these war powers resolutions so that people have a say in whether or not we do this. And if people are given a say, it's likely this will not happen. If people in Congress just pass the buck and punt and say, well, the president has the powers, that is how you're going to get to a very bad situation. So,
well, to the point of our previous commenter about needing to come together. Yeah, you're right. We need to come together around these specific issues. And then in reality, we need a revolution in this country, like a real revolution. Our entire leadership class is representing people who are not only not representing our interests, who are antithetical to our interests. The entire leadership class. A lot of people said, well, what do you think Harris would have done? Yeah, you're right. You're right. Do I think this wouldn't have happened under a President Harris? No. So at that point, the country has been taken over. We do not have a democracy. At that point, you need a revolution. This system does not work anymore. Like, it's not just about voting these people out in favor of those people. The Democrats are going to try to frame it that way. That's why the lack of any anti-war statement at No Kings is instructive, because they will just try to put everyone back to sleep who's mad at Donald Trump. Oh, yeah, well, We'll bring back the DEI, and there's a certain segment of the population, the counterpart of the people who will vote on getting rid of the DEI, who are going to be satisfied with that, and will vote on that. We can't keep playing this game because, as you can see with where we are now, we're on the verge of annihilation. Like, it's not a joke. You know, all of those other things, we can talk about it later. We need a revolution. The system does not work anymore with the advancing AI technology, automation, capitalism. You can have your philosophical, abstract debate about capitalism versus socialism. Guess what, sunshine? So many people who, when we were out hosting Jimmy at the time that they raised the minimum wage in California, talking about how they're going to automate it. Okay, well, keep going. Keep going. Okay, well, so why do you think capitalism continues to be a viable system for working people if what you're saying is if labor gets a little more expensive in fast food restaurants, they're going to automate everybody's job out of existence? So a world with that kind of technology is one where whether you theoretically like capitalism, it doesn't matter. It doesn't work anymore. It's not going to work for people like you anymore. So you're a rich ruling class person. What's the next logical conclusion? Well, we don't need these people anymore. So let's not give them health care. Let's not give them healthy food. Let's have less of them, because the more of them we have, then they start rioting in LA, right? You reduce and demoralize the population. So yes, we need to come together across ideological lines and figure out where we want to go as a society beyond voting for these two criminal parties.
Yeah, no. Well, the way you disrupt that, I mean, and yes, well, the first step to that is, of course, labor organizing and labor actions, a general strike. I mean, a general strike, that's a revolutionary act. And, that is what it is going to take at minimum. You already have unions talking about trying to organize that for 2020.
Yeah, where's Sean O'Brien?
Yeah.
Where's that guy?
Yeah, where is he? Where's
he? I haven't heard a word out of him.
Yeah. Yeah, because that is what it ultimately is going to take. And when you talk about rejecting a war with Iran, when you talk about, just unifying masses behind these ideas, that is what it can take. And it can be very effective if it's overwhelming. And it has to be overwhelming. And it takes some unity in order to make that happen. Because we obviously don't want things to get violent. You want to be able to organize this through work stoppages and labor actions and civil disobedience. You don't want it to resort to violence in a civil war. That's not what we're talking about, because that favors the establishment. That's what Jimmy says. Chaos favors them, because they have all that equipment that we're sending to Israel and Ukraine, right? But it doesn't take that when you have broad-based solidarity and consensus.
Well, because then you're going to flip a lot of the police and military just by the weight of your momentum.
Right. Exactly. All right. Let's see here. What do we got? Guys, it's not like the powers that be will let us all die. Then whose children are they going to traffic? Yeah, good one. Their own? Come on now, don't be weird. Kate, thanks for the $4.99. Know why people don't sponsor immigrants? Because if the immigrants take government benefits, the sponsor has to repay the government. That's why. Christopher Burke, thanks for the $5. UK government supports this war. When hundreds of thousands of Iranians start to flee war, where will they go? Immigration is our problem, not their problem. Iran Bertoni, so if Mamdani is my top pick, but I prefer Cuomo to Adams, I still shouldn't include Cuomo on the ballot? I don't really get it. Well, Adams is not on the ballot.
Adams
just don't
is
rank
not.
any of them.
Don't
Adams
rank Cuomo. You don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to rank anybody. So Adams is not running as a Democrat, so you don't have to worry about that. But don't rank Cuomo at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ranking Mamdani first. I'm ranking Lander second. I'm not ranking anybody else.
And that's it. Those are the only two.
Yep.
Right. Brighton Yoendo, thanks for the $5. Israeli ambassador just said there will be a surprise attack on Iran this Thursday, Friday that will make Patriot attack look simply evil. Well, it's not much of a surprise if he's talking about it today.
That's not.
Hit him far.
Do they know what surprise
means? Yeah. Do you think if Trump goes into Iran, and he will, it will matter how it goes down, or is it just the act of going in will permanently fracture MAGA? Well, I don't. I mean, there's not going to be a good outcome if that happens. Like I don't know what do you mean by how it goes down. What if we win and we plant our flag in Tehran and declare victory and drink beer and whiskey in Iran? Like that's not going to happen. It's going to go worse than Iraq. That's a foregone
90 million
conclusion.
people.
Yeah, exactly. Eric Suarez, thanks for the $5. Vote the Republicans and Democrats owned by AIPAC out for the new Republicans, Democrats owned by AIPAC. The Houthi pushed the U.S. and out of the Red Sea, and they don't have an Air Force or Navy. Strong probability Trump will just taco again. Yeah, there you go. In terms of, I mean, obviously there's no long-term benefit to keep, playing duopoly politics, but what I mean by this is an emergency is you have to communicate to whoever's in office now, they will not have a political career beyond 2026 if they do not vote for this war powers resolution. That's it. The other problems of duopoly politics obviously remain intact and unsolved, I should say. But yeah, you have to make the stakes existential for these politicians that it is an automatic fail and it is disqualifying to defer your constitutional duties to Donald Trump at this moment where he's trying to start a war with Iran. Right. All right. Let's go. I got one more piece.
One more.
All right.
We're calling this one Taco Bell.
There you go.
Trump is quite the salesman. Always has a new product. He'll sell you steaks. He'll sell you Israel. He'll sell you meme coins. He'll sell you a bad dinner after putting millions of dollars into his meme coin. This is one of our favorite tweets of all time. Sunday Girl. Trump's crypto dinner looks like a meal you'd get as a reward in prison for not stabbing anyone all week.
Yeah.
And now he wants to sell you a phone and a mobile plan. Patriot Oasis, unironically. The Trump family is launching a Trump phone. The phones will be made in the USA. Hold that thought. Mobile plans will offer a flagship 47 plan. All right, let's see the big announcement with Eric and Don Jr.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. And on behalf of Don and I, and really everybody in the Trump organization, we have a lot of our employees here today. We couldn't be more excited about this venture. This year has really been a year of technology. Don and I have spent so much of our time in that. We're building the greatest hotels on Earth. We're building the greatest golf course on Earth. But we're also spending a lot of time in the technology field. Everybody knows what we've done in crypto. I think we've got the greatest projects in crypto, and more our company is evolving into various sectors. And, but there is kind of a key to that, and that is America. Right? I mean, the fact that all your customer service will be done in America. It's going to be done in St. Louis, Missouri. I hope I was allowed to give that out. And making phones in America. It's about time we bring products back to our great country. And it's about time we disrupt this space. And between really the three gentlemen here, again, hundreds of years in the mobile space, they know the world better than anybody. And we couldn't be more excited about this partnership. So, guys, do an extremely fun and successful venture to one that's all American, based here in America with an American family. We're going to have a lot of fun doing this for years and years to come. So on behalf of myself, the Trump organization, Don, obviously, the entire family, thank you guys. We look forward to it and some amazing things to come. There's a lot of things that we're not even mentioning on the stage right now, which we're going to be announcing in the next couple weeks and months, but couldn't be more excited to be doing this with you.
Okay. So I just want to say a little side note. We talked a little bit about the failings of capitalism in the previous segment. I would really recommend the Ocean Gate documentary about the Ocean Gate sub explosion on Netflix. A system that produces Eric Trump and makes him rich and in a position of authority. Do you feel that's a system that works? Like, isn't that an indictment of the system in and of itself? Because our system produces a lot of useless people like this who are rich because they won the sperm lottery, and they get to just go and live off the backs of workers for no reason. Does this guy seem more talented than you? Does this guy seem smarter than you? Why on earth should this guy be in this position? For what or Don for that reason, or any of these other fucking pork-bellied losers on stage here? Like, why are these people in this position? Alex Cole here. You have to admit, Trump and his crime family know how to scam MAGAs consistently. So which of you dumb MAGAs is laying out $500 for a rebranded cheap Chinese phone painted a tacky gold color? Well, we have an answer. Rowdy American.
That's right.
Finally, a phone as bold as its namesake. American made, American proud. Now, look, I would assume that this is a bot, but the account's been up since 2012. Now, given the former relationship to Elon, that could be fake. I don't know. America First, starting right now. $47.95. Does it include unlimited message, unlimited calls, unlimited web access? Very excited about this. So I got curious. I was really curious who's behind this account. Now, if this is real, Rowdy American has the whole thing. He has the Cybertruck.
Oh, yeah.
He has the suburban house, and he has quite a tagline here. Tolerance is the lube that helps slip the dildo of dysfunction into the ass of a civilized society.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rowdy American. And here's America First right now. America First, American Patriot. No DMS dummies. Is that what that is? We should not have to downsize to lower our taxes. The government needs to downsize to keep our taxes low. Somebody telling you to downsize? Who's telling you to downsize? Trump is definitely not telling you to downsize. I think the last American president to tell people to downsize was Jimmy Carter in the sweater. People saw how that went, and nobody ever tried it again. Pat Turd thinks it's a great idea. The new Trump phone is fire.
Fire.
It's fire. Now, you got to remember, we've been talking a lot about this week. You got to remember, when you see these guys like Cat Turd, chances are they're being paid.
Oh, yeah, they're trying to move some phones.
They're trying to move some phones. They're getting paid. You can see here, this was exposed a couple months ago. All these guys took money to promote unlimited sugar in soft drinks to kind of stop Bobby Jr. from going too far with his Maha. You can see Clown World there, Ian Miles Chong, Eric Doherty, not Jerome Powell. For $1,000, you can buy these people. So Cat Turd probably gets a little more than that. But you can assume when you see something like this isn't his opinion. They paid him to have that opinion. So here is Eric Trump on one of the selling points of the phone. It's security benefits.
Security benefits because, listen, Steve, neither you nor I trust talking on our cell phones at any point, and so that's something seriously we're gonna seriously be running toward in the coming months and years, because that
we're gonna trust you. Yeah, no, trust the commander in chief. Trust. Talk on the president's cell phone line.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Why? Hang on. Isn't your father president? So why should people feel like their phones aren't secure now? Shouldn't they already be secure? It's not the Harris presidency, right? It's your dad who's president. But these people have no sense of irony. Trump taps Palantir to compile data on Americans. Like, right as that story is really blowing up, he claims that one of the benefits is the security features. So this is Cash here. The Trump phone uses the Palantir operating system, Orwell 2.0. And from our very own Due Dissidence account, when you really want Palantir to watch you jerk off. Call to activism here. Holy shit. Eric Trump says eventually the phones under the new Trump mobile brand will be made in the USA. That means right now they will be made overseas. Unreal. Now we showed you the opening conference. He said made right here in the USA. Made right here in the USA. So listen to him here with Mr. Fugazi, Benny Johnson.
thing with Trump Mobile right now. I'm incredibly excited. You can build these phones in the United States. Our customer service is in the United States. It's in St. Louis, Missouri. We can add more functionality. We can do it cheaper. We can do it better. And eventually all the phones can be built in the United States of America. We have to bring manufacturing.
You hear that little dance?
Yeah.
The call center will be in the United States. We can do it cheaper and better eventually, not now, but eventually we'll do it in the United States.
Back here. And so our ethos is, build for Americans, by Americans, do it cheaper, do it better.
Eventually.
Monthly plans, $47 a month, which we kind of thought was fun and cool. Unlimited calling, unlimited text, over 100 countries around the world.
Benny's just sitting there thinking, please don't go to war in Iran. Please don't go to war in Iran. I have a mortgage half paid. Please don't go to war in Iran. So
if Don Jr. runs and he becomes the 48th president, then you could charge $48 a month. That's
Oh,
incentive
yeah.
for these guys.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Few million more. So okay, so he says not going to be made here yet. So what are they selling? What are they actually selling? According to Apple Leaker here, Trump is selling a repackaged $172 Chinese phone for $500, and it's not even made in the USA. Whoever falls for this scam is a straight up clown.
Yeah, like what is it? Yeah, exactly.
So
Right.
based on the specs, a little more detail here from David. More grifting by Trump. The Trump organization is now selling phones via a new company, Trump Mobile. The T1 phone is priced at $599 with a $100 down payment required for pre-orders. The 47 plan costs $47.45 monthly. Marketed as designed and built in the United States to appeal to consumers seeking American-made products. However, reports indicate the T1 phone is likely a rebranded version of a Chinese manufactured device, possibly the Revel 7 Pro 5G made by WingTech, owned by Luxshare in China. The phone may be modified or assembled with minor changes in the US, but core components and design are not American made. Trump Mobile operates as a mobile virtual network operator, reselling access to AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile 5G networks. It does not own its own network infrastructure. Yeah, no, that is the kind of great deal that Trump offers to his devotees. You can pay millions of dollars to get to a dinner with him, have him give a 20-minute speech, get back on the helicopter, and you're stuck with the Walmart steak. This is the phone version of that. Hey, this is $172. We sell $500. It's a lot of profit there. It's a lot of profit.
Basically, it's just a gold version of a cheap phone.
Of a cheap Chinese phone.
That uses third-party networks to actually
all it
perform
is.
the functions. Yeah.
These people never stop, man. They never stop.
Yeah.
Trump's $499 smartphone will likely be made in China. This is from CNBC. The Trump organization's newly announced smartphone will likely be made in China, experts say, despite claims that the device will be manufactured in the U.S. Owned by U.S. We already got into that. The Trump organization says the phone will be built in the United States. Oh, it's going to run the Android system, by the way. But experts note the phone was likely designed and would be manufactured by a Chinese firm. Quote, there is no way the phone was designed from scratch, and there is no way it is going to be assembled in the U.S. or completely manufactured in the U.S., Francisco Geronimo, vice president at International Data Corporation, told CNBC on Tuesday. That is completely impossible. Now, this is what Tim Cook said when Trump demanded the iPhone be made in the United States. We literally do not have the factories capable of making an iPhone in the United States. It's not a question of choice. That literally does not exist here.
Right.
Geronimo suggested that the phone would likely be produced by a Chinese original device manufacturer, a type of company that designs and manufactures products based on the specifications of another firm. Quote, despite being advertised as an American-made phone, it is likely that this device will be initially produced by a Chinese ODM. Blake Przmicki, an analyst at Counterpoint Research, said in a note on Monday. So this is a funny meme. Breaking, prototype for Trump Mobile revealed. Only $599.99. Comes with one can. Upgrade to Platinum Patriot plan for string. Finally, my friend just bought a Trump mobile phone. It only allows you to text in caps. The payment has to be made out to cash. The spell check misspells every word. And Siri is Laura Loomer. Good job there, Zero Dark 29. So yeah, man, you almost have to give them credit. It's ABS with them. Always be scamming, always be scamming, always be scamming. You talk about people so devious and evil that they sat around over a few lines of blow and said, you know what? Let's just get a cheap phone and we'll put the Trump name on it.
And that's it.
And we'll sell it and we'll just paint it gold. We'll paint it gold, man. We'll make a fortune. Like, these guys are just taking the opportunity of the presidency to just scam their asses off, man.
Yep.
Any place they can turn a dollar off of their base, they will. You know, on that level, that is our best hope, I think, at this point, of avoiding nuclear annihilation, because they're going to see the collapse in the meme coin. They're going to see they can't sell this phone. They're going to be like, Dad, you got to call off World War III. It's really hurting the marketing.
Yeah, right.
Business.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's how it goes. That's life as a Trump. I love how they call it $47.45. Why couldn't it be $45.47? Right? Because he's the 45th and the 47th. That'd be $2 cheaper. But they don't want They want to get you for that extra $2.
Exactly.
$47.45. Yeah, no. I mean, well, this is
that's
what
not
I
even particularly cheap. That's not even
No.
particularly cheap for
No,
the
that's not
monthly
cheap. That's
price.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like normal, standard.
Yeah, that's like pretty standard. Yeah, that's pretty standard. I think mine was even cheaper than that. I think I upgraded for some reason. I forget why. But yeah, I mean, look, like, these iPhones are expensive, but I mean, you could shoot a movie on these iPhones. I mean, they're
Right.
great machines. This looks like, garbage. This is like Orchard Street garbage. That you would just buy.
Oh yeah, no, the
Yeah.
specs on this suck.
Yeah, terrible, horrible. Remember, we bought a Chinese camera. We bought one of those knockoff cameras. That was really terrible.
Yeah,
We had
the
to
one that
return it.
the zoom didn't work.
No, that one is just not suitable for what you want. No, I still have that one. That one has a good purpose. No, there was the other one that we got that was really bad. That maybe I got it, and rather than send it to you, I just sent it back. But yeah, pretty horrible stuff.
Yeah, this no, it has a shit camera. It has shit specs. Yeah, no, it's just total garbage. Like, this is something I could probably go down to Chinatown in New York City right now, and I could probably get that phone for $100.
Yeah, pretty terrible stuff. All right, folks. Before we get to our remaining super chats, a brief word from 1775 Coffee. Oops, what happened? Yeah, go ahead. I got you. No, what's going on? Is it not letting me do it? All right. Be that way then. Let's see.
Yeah, that would be funny, man. I should actually, because when I travel from now on, I'm going to get a burner. If I want to guarantee they don't stop me, I should get that for my burner phone.
Yeah, that would be, yeah, exactly. Show them your Trump phone. Yeah, when they ask to see your phone, you just tell them that. Landrew, thanks for the $100. Let's have a cowbell for Landrew and a sound drop for Landrew. How many Teslas does an android buy? Free Palestine. Much love to you and many thanks. Then a censored sentence about the war. Trust me, it was brilliant, huh? I sympathize. Thank you for sending that chat anyway. Very kind of you, Landrew. Appreciate that. Very, very much.
I am Landrew. Landrew is dead.
Brent Yoendo, the Trump mobile rollout alongside Palantir rollout makes you wonder how Trump was indebted to the tune of billions in the 90s. Thank you, Brent Yoendo. Keaton giving serious Dieter from Sprockets vibes today. Would you like to touch my monkey? Love him. Touch him. P. Walker, thanks for the $2. I hear they wanted the original price at $86.47. Good one. Yes, that would have been more money, but worse messaging. Okay, got it. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Well, now's your shot. 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits harder than a CNN fact check, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free, and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic, a frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's political opinions, and, of course, a black 1775 tumbler that says, I don't take life advice or caffeine from a woke sea witch. That's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. It is. You can buy 5 of these for the cost of one Trump phone. That's what a great value this is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. So start your day with coffee that actually backs what you believe.
In the interest of full disclosure,
There
I
you
do
go.
share a child with a woke sea witch.
There you go. Yes, indeed. Indeed. Full disclosure. All right, folks, we are going to take the remainder of our Rumble rants and super chats and then get out of here. But while we do that, of course, we want to shout out our patrons, our paid subscribers. You guys are the backbone of the show. So please, if you can, go to dudissidents.substack.com, dudissidents.com/Patreon, or dudissidents.com/locals to become a member. For just $5 a month, you help keep the show going. We could not do the show without our members. You guys are the backbone of the operation. You get all kinds of perks, including bonus film club live streams, post-game additions to our regular scheduled live streams. Once a month, we go over to a private channel that you have access to via email, and we do bonus segments plus a Q&A. That'll be coming up probably next week. I'm thinking next Thursday will be our post-game show. So that was a lot of fun the first time we launched it, and we're looking forward to doing that again. You also get ad-free versions of every live stream emailed to you the day after they air. So if you miss a live stream and you don't want to watch it back with ad interruptions, that feature comes in handy. People like that feature a lot. You get a full live stream replay emailed to you, no ad interruptions at all. Dan Kelly, $4.99 for the Trump phone, $19.99 model for service without Mossad listening chip. Yes, $3,000 for the model without the explosives. Thank you. Pearl Lloyd Strat says, did you guys miss the official Trump electric guitars a few months ago? They were quite expensive. Turned out they were made in China. Thank you. Furrows Queen says, I don't know if anyone has any sway in this Iran malarkey, but I'm seeing Dave Matthews on the 8th of July, and I'm going there from England on my own. Can it not wait
That's what
till
you
after,
think.
please? Freaking
Yeah,
out.
exactly.
Yeah. There you go. So hopefully that waits up for you, Furrows Queen. Free Shit says, Matt Taibbi, The Divide, New York Times bestseller. Yep, it's one of his books.
Did he just publish a new one?
No, that's another one.
I don't even know that one.
Yeah. Professor Brown note, I'm starting a war for peace because I'm very stable genius. Make America Hoiven Maven again. Gold baby gold. Melania pocket pussy trademark. Thank you for that. Jenna Tills said, I never thought we'd see the day, but Keaton is merely a stenographer for the super chats. That's right. Yeah, there you go. The People Infinite, if Trump and administration don't back down from World War III support, any chance Shama or Jimmy or anyone can organize an anti-war day? Better that than Stuart Colbert way back when, outside of buying Rumble, of course. Yeah, I mean, we would love to do an anti-war rally, 100%. That would be great. Russ, we didn't lose Afghanistan. It was a tie. Thank you, Xander.
That's what they said about Vietnam.
Yes. El Kaminsky, I saw a report that Lander NYC was arrested during an ICE protest. Yeah, that was just today.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that.
Yep. No DMSs, no direct messages. Yes, no DMs. Yep. These phones are designed by Mossad and are programmed to explode if Palantir detects any anti-Trump rhetoric. Yeah, like the idea, like it's so, like the lack of self-awareness is amazing. Yeah, no, we want you to be free. We don't, there's so much surveillance.
If you're like
nowadays.
me, I'm worried using my phone.
I'm worried using my phone. Yeah, that's right. Damon Wolf, no one should be surprised the phone isn't made here.
Pete
Yeah.
access.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. From day one, Trump's own merch wasn't made here. Everything about the man is a fake stunt. Growing up here in New York, I know this firsthand. Yep. Always a hustler.
Yep.
Once a
Yep.
hustler, always a hustler. All right, folks, that's our show. Thanks very much for being here today. We appreciate you all. As always, we have Professor Mohammed Marandi on the Jimmy Dore Show tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be a great time. Don't miss that. And then we will see you all again on this channel on Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern for our regularly scheduled show, our midday show for our Euro fans and our lunchtime viewers here stateside. Thank you all very much for being here this afternoon. Appreciate you spending the afternoon with us. Until we see you again, be safe and be well.
Courage!
Please clap.